Fall into the abyss. Yeah, that was weird because it's like I got a notification that Firefox crashed, but I was looking around going like, I don't have Firefox open. What do you mean Firefox crashed? And then yeah, I looked over at my stream and it's like frozen. It's like, why is my stream frozen? Sure, one of these cranks is going to have something to do with something. Like, when I rotate it, it's going to change something, because it lifted this up. So when that one's on, it's down on the ground. It's at ground level. I still don't have, like, a way to get into it. Can we put the baby just down here and then, you know, we can remove baby through the suction thing. At AIIr, not the time. Yeah, AIIr can give head pats when they contribute, like everybody else has. Okay. So, this symbol on the door, the spiral on the door, lowers the platform under the bell jar, so that we can press the button on the platform under the bell jar. Except for we can't get to it because it's under a giant bell jar. So, that raises a lot of questions about what to do next. You looked it up? I think we might, unless he's got a good tip.
All is in your hands now. The threshold has been crossed. Seek the knowledge from above. Understand the past to preserve the future.
Alright, we listen to the weird tentacles.
Room of Emerald, the dormant key to a larger stasis. It has but a solitary door, yet to finally arrive you must travel through many.
Go back to the baby room? Alright. I was thinking maybe it's something in the baby room, but then I'm like, I've clicked like everything in the baby room. But is it that crystal goes on like the mobile or something? I mean, I tried clicking on the hole in the baby room and it didn't seem to do anything. Alright, let's see. Alright, here's the baby room. Oh my god. It's this thing that looks like debris. I clicked on the debris, but I didn't click low enough. Thank you. Alright, let's get this back. Now we have it. Thank you, Regik. Listen, I have good, high cunning, low perception stat. That's what I have. Ah, no, I want to click Beak-Beak! Shit. Alright, you know what? I should just move Beak-Beak now. So I don't accidentally click the,
Thanks, Beaky. That really helps.
Get on there. Tommy. Crank.
Thanks, little buddy.
Crank. Crank. Okay, in we go. So now we should be able to smack this thing, or we can use the console, one or the others. One of these things has got to work. Okay. I feel like that thing we picked up, we're going to drop here, suck it up with a vacuum. Nope. I guess we're not using it in this room, unless I'm clicking the wrong spot. Yeah, I think this is later. I was hoping that thing we picked up, we'd be able to, like, smack the glass and shatter it. But I guess not. Let's see if our hint has changed from this guy.
All is in your hands now. The threshold has been crossed. Seek the knowledge from above. Understand the past to preserve the future. Room of Emerald, the dormant key to a larger stasis. It has but a solitary door, yet to finally arrive you must travel through many. Room of Emerald, the dormant key to a larger stasis. It has but a solitary...
Yeah, the orb thing, that's what I'm thinking. Oop. I wanted to get off, not down. There we go, now it's clickable.
Whoa, yeah, this is great!
Okay, we can go on the cart now.
Whee!
Hey guys, I found out what the last piece of that code was. Okay, so we're a little bit out of order. Maybe we should go put that code back in correctly now anyways. Oh my god, come on. Go, go, go. Up. But we can go past it. Because now we've got this connected. Okay. So we go the one way to solve this. So we can go around the other way through this. Which means we can go somewhere new. Okay, we can't go up there. Okay. So that path is open to us, but I want to go down here first. Okay, never mind. We are going that way. How can we get out? Okay, I guess we just sit there for a moment. Oh boy, puzzles after puzzles. What do we got here? Can we spin this? I see, we slide it. Come on, slide. Can I only slide one at a time? Okay, this thing rotates. It only does one at a time. Grabbed into the wrong one. No, it's gonna be upside down. Damn it! Boom. There we go. Oh, hey, it's another one of these things. Ah, okay, this is definitely related somehow. Because the first one we encountered had the dash. The second one we encountered has the second quadrant symbol here. Beak-Beak. Go to the dog bowl thing. Beak-Beak does nothing with the dog bowl. Okay. Before we go down anywhere, I want to go to the right. Let's check this out. Can we use the lever here? No, apparently not.
That looks kind of familiar.
He still hasn't returned. What do you mean, Plex Tech? Thanks, Crazy Kane. Alright, oh, there's a button. How do I return? It must be by the same path by which I came so long ago. The purple ball of fuzz. It rests in its crevice. Zerk must touch it again for me to return, but he lies prostrate, dead. He cannot come to me. I must go to him. My thoughts go to the weakness of the rock that surrounds the purple fuzzball. With a small effort, I split the slab of rock free. It shatters on the cave floor, sending a shower of rock across Zerk's body. With it, the fuzzball is carried until it touches Zerk. I'm swimming up from the depths of the pool. My head breaches the surface, and I sit up in my old body, just as the rest of Ditchmonger crew arrives. Alright. Does Beak-Beak have to stand on this?
Thanks, Beaky. That really helps.
Then do I just go and push this? Anything changing?
Inspire others to great heights, and your objectives shall be reached. A small room is a tall room, depending on where you put the floor.
Interesting.
Although peaceful by nature, we do have some light artillery. Its operation requires a correct answer.
Okay, so the ant guy tells us how to operate artillery. Also, Plextech over regarding what happened. We solved puzzles. We progressed a little further in the game. It'll be in the VOD later. But as for why the stream died, I don't know. I just randomly got a notification that Firefox crashed, even though I didn't have Firefox open. So yeah, and then stream died. I have no idea why.
Consider this. To travel faster, could it be best to travel farther? A small room is a tall room, depending on where you put the floor. Although peaceful by nature, we do have some light artillery. Its operation requires a correct answer.
Alright. Question is, are these buttons related? Because if I push it just on my own, does it do anything? Nope. Okay. Floor button and that are unrelated. I think.
Nice work, Beak-Beak.
Consider this. To travel faster, could it be best to travel farther?
So how much stuff is written on this wall? Oh, it goes. It go. There's so much text. Okay, I guess we're reading for a little bit now, guys. Does where I click determine what we start reading? Because originally I clicked back here. Holy crap, there is a lot of text on this wall. Okay guys, this has become a reading stream. Alright. The Blank Miner. For 7 years, I did not see Meva, though I heard her name in passing. I did not love her because I did not know her by name. But I loved her presence in the universe, her person. Even if she knew me, she could not love me, for I was unlovable. Back in the mine... oh my god. Stuff is all glitching out. Alright. Back in the mine, she was spared the worst of me. Though Meva would come to be the focus of my desire, my attraction to her could not be expressed by the brute that I was. I was but a few steps up from an animal, yet my desire for her was beyond anything else I knew or loved. It was worship. Wow, simp. Wall of lore. Yes. We're diving in. I was raised in blank mine. Blanks are slices of rock, which are held to the forehead so a thought could be self-scribed into the surface. When a blank has been scribed, it is called a thought rock. Some are more valuable than others. Thoughts usually come in greater meaning when they are scribed on a blank. The laws of our civilization are inscribed upon a series of blanks. The best thought rocks are displayed in museums and studied. Whole libraries full of thought rocks are preserved and handed down for future generations to enjoy. In time of war, thought rocks are moved underground or protected by armies. While thought rocks are important, mere blanks are considered mundane. They're inexpensive to mine, in part because the labor of the mine to mine them is cheap. It is the task of the lower class to dig them out of the ground. Because I have no honorable blood in my line, I was given no education and no option for work. I was destined to be a blank miner. I am Zerk. Okay, so this is introducing the Zerk character from that other piece that we had read. Right. The foreman of the blank mine was a broad-shouldered, ambitious, loud man named Joxon Rexon. It was he who told us where to dig and for how long. His favorite miners were given top-level duty. I was not his favorite, but my productivity was of importance to him. Top-level duty meant we were digging at the highest level of the mine, and usually got to see the light at least 4 times a day. When the Hall of Blanks were taken to the surface, we got to sleep above ground in tents, while crews from other levels had to sleep in the mines. I had worked my way up from the lowest levels of duty, to finally gain a place among the top level. Joxon Rexon liked having me there because the yield increased when I joined, and he could trust me even when he wasn't watching. This is when I first saw Meva. Joxon Rexon was far braver than I, and his blood superior to mine. He came from an intimidating level of education and power, so of course she would willingly be his. Every day he would come to work and speak of the beautiful Meva. At first, I was disinterested, but the more he talked of her, the more my interest grew. Still, I had not yet seen her. Imagine someone thinking about their sexual thoughts that into a blank rock and having that be out in a museum. Crazy Kane. I don't think that rock would go in a museum. I think that would just go on StoneHub. Alright, back to the story. That one day, when I was near his office alone and unwatched, I decided I would sneak a look at the thought rock with her image that Joxon said was upon his desk. I remember the day well, for it was the pivot. I remember the day well, for it was the pivot on which the rest of my life turned. It was the moment I discovered love. The office was dusty and cluttered with piles of thought rocks. Natural light streamed in through a single hole in the ceiling, a perk of being a foreman of this mine, and bathed in that light was the thought rock, with Meva's face inscribed upon it. It was like a creature waking from hibernation. I stood stunned, unable to move. Her beauty was beyond anything I could ever have thought. I would have gladly given 1,000 days in the surface light to meet her face to face. Her features were wondrous. I studied every detail. Approaching footsteps interrupted my trance. I put the slate back on the desk and pressed my back against the wall behind a stack of thought rocks. Joxon Rexon entered, walking right past me. He went to a stack of thought rocks at the back of the office and began searching through them. In his moment of distraction, I fled unnoticed. Borox, my tent mate, always slept with his eyes open, so it seemed like he was staring at me. This disturbed me, but that night I didn't even notice. Is this a cuck story? I feel like this is a cuck story. They say that working in the blank mines puts blank particles into your body. Some say blank particles soak into the skin via pores. That would explain a lot, because Meva's face was inscribed into my mind as if my brain was a blank, and the image of her has not faded since. The next morning, we were back... clicked off of it. The next morning, we were back to mining on top-level duty, but I could not concentrate on carving rocks from the rock walls. My heart was still on that image of Meva. In a moment of passion, I threw down my tool and leaned against the wall of the mine, told myself to stop thinking of her. After all, I did not know her, and she would never know a thing like me. At that moment, the image of Meva etched itself into the mine wall before me. I looked to either side, terrified that my fellow miner had seen it, but my crew was working a little further down the shaft, and no one was looking my way. Quickly, I cut the image of Meva from the rock and tucked it into my pocket. But I was not to be so lucky. Another image of Meva inscribed itself into the blank cave wall, but this time it was 8 heads tall. There was no way... Scrolled way too fast. There was no way I could hide it. To my horror, images of Meva scrawled all over the walls and ceiling of the cave. The members of my crew cried out in shock when images of Meva appeared in front of them. I was terrified that Jox and Rexon would do to me, but the sheer number of images saved me. It was impossible to tell who was responsible because they were everywhere, even in front of Jox and Rexon. I regained my head and feigned ignorance. "What's going on?" I asked. Joxon Rexon threw his stool in rage. As a nurse, I'm so used to reading the word stool meaning something else. Oh, okay. Joxon Rexon threw his stool in rage. I was about to lose it there. I was about to, like, what? What do you mean he's throwing shit around? What the fuck? Okay, Joxon Rexon threw his stool in rage. Not only was one of us obviously thinking of his gal, but the day's yield of blank rocks was ruined. "Who did this?" he screamed. All eyes went down. No one spoke. He repeated the question. Again, there was no response. I feared him too much to tell the truth. In a fit of jealous rage, Joxon Rexon switched to the entire top crew with the lowest crew in the mine, the Ditch Mongers. Ditch Mongers saw the light of the day once a month at best. They slept in the mine in sleeping bags because the 8-mile walk to the surface would take up too much of the workday. We had nothing but old dirty sleeping bags to warm us in those dank caves. It was on the first night in the deep caves that I lay in my sleeping bag that I discovered the thought rock of Meva I had tucked into my pocket. I had forgotten it, but now it warmed me in a way that the light of day could not. And now, more than ever, I wanted to see her face to face. You can see Joxon lost his shit. Yes! There you go. Good. The Ditchmongers. We worked by lamplight in the lowest of the blank mines, our eyes strained to adjust to the pitch black. My crew numbered just over 20, but I was closest to Borox. Not that we had anything in common. He was of noble blood, caught beating a servant and sent to prison for a year. Upon release, his father arranged for him to work with the top-level crew to develop his character before going back to the surface society. The only thing I gave Borox was new victims. The only thing it gave Borox was new victims. Borox had a nose for finding weakness in others, and exploiting it to his advantage. When a new member was added to the team, Borox would bully them. First verbally, then physically, until they fought back. It was how he tested them. He found their breaking point. Even though I was the lowest of the low, he never attacked me. At the time, I didn't know why. I now think it was because we were assigned together as tent mates, while on the top level. Borox probably thought it was unwise to create strife with the person in which he shared his sleeping quarters. Now demoted to Ditchmongers sleeping in the open caves, Borox's abstention of abuse towards me continued. Some members of our crew were captured in the Wanati Desert and sold to the mine as slaves. 2 of them, Jeg and Joe, were wrinkled twin brothers who talked to the walls as they mined the rock. They would apologize to the mountain for the injury they were about to administer. It was all in their Wantonese language, and they would translate their favorite sayings to us. The brothers took turns pounding the same chunk of rock while chanting in unison, "Armikrog, Armikrog, Armikrog." There was another blank miner I feared, though not in the way others feared Borox. This miner had a thin frame and nervous smile. His face was caked with black earth. His smile exposed jagged yellow teeth. To be near him was akin to walking past an open grave at night. His name was Weave. My first assignment as a ditchmonger was to work side by side with Weave in a narrow shaft. The blanks we cut were stacked on a hoist which, when fully loaded, was pulled up and out of the shaft, unloaded by others, and then lowered again to us. This was the first time I had worked alongside Weave, and it was unnerving. He would mumble all day long, using my name as if we were having a conversation. Zerk, you work long? Yes, Zerk, work long. But when I tried to reply, he would argue that he hadn't said anything. I grew to despise Weave, began to calculate how to get Borax to ill-treat him. I was still, you will remember, not much higher than an animal. Though my heart was filled with Meva, my soul was dark. Borax refused to beat Weave. I'm sure he abstained because he did not like the idea of doing so because it was my idea. After 2 weeks of working alongside Weave, I was desperate to get rid of him. It was then that I decided to ask the Abominate. Since he would be work chained to a steel ball, each member of the crew had to take a turn carrying his lunchtime meal to him. As luck would have it, it was my turn. I approached the Abominate and set the food down on the ground, just barely within his reach. He did not look at me or acknowledge my presence. His massive form was seated on the cave floor, turned away from me. Fear of pain over fear of death? Yeah. More like fear of pain over fear of just straight up crazy. It seems like this Abominate fellow is the murderer. So we've got the bully, the batshit crazy, and the breaker of the life thread. There we go. I just described all of them with starting with a B. I don't know why I did this, but I chose to. Deal with it. Alright, I waited for a moment, my words faltering, for my mind was taking in the majesty of the creature. Finally, I swallowed and whispered, I need a favor. No. His voice was like a deep rumble. But you don't even know what... I will not kill for you. Not Weave, not anyone. His words disarmed me. I'd expected an oaf, an idiot, but he was well spoken. His appearance did not match his speech. You have worked for weeks next to that sewer urchin. Anyone forced to do so would desire him dead. But the Abominate was not done. He turned his ugly face towards me. His eyes seemed to drill deep into me. I know why your crew is working as ditchmongers. It's your fault. It was you whose mind etched Meva's face on the mine walls. A bolt of horror struck me. My knees felt weak, and I nearly collapsed. How could he know? He had been chained to his steel ball in the deepest mines for years. I wanted to lie. I wanted to use... What would it have been? But what use would it have been? Even if we were only guessing, the expression on my face had already confessed. Your secret will be kept with me. Why? I stammered. Because it is a secret of love. The Abominate got up and came over to where I had sat the food. Instinctively, I took a step back from the massive form towering over me. Perhaps it was because he promised to keep my secret that I felt I could ask him a question about himself. Is it true, what they say about your wife? I asked. Ah, brute. There we go. The bully, the batshit crazy, and the brute. That is actually smart. Maybe we should just call him the brutal. Alright. Rage exploded across his face. A bellow of anger burst from his lips that sounded like 100 wild animals. Actually, the brawn, I guess, would be the best way to describe him, because he's not so much brutish. His hands snapped out towards me. Before I could act, they encircled my head. But they did not touch my skin. There was murder in his eyes. Ask me again about my wife, and I will eat your corpse before it cools. He turned away from me, and I fled. Damn. To strike a mountain. I awake in my sleeping bag. Through squinting eyes, I see Borax's face. His eyes wide with sleeping, always sleeping with those wide eyes. Out of my sack, On with my undergarments, work robe, and pill hat. My chest is soaked from a dream sweat. I had been running in the dream. Was I being pursued? I cannot remember. Some of the others are stirring. A stench fills the air from a bedpan used during the night. I choke on the foul odor. Crazy. I was crazy once. Crazy Kane, you're crazy all the time. Walking down the mine shaft to our last work area, I hear my own footfalls and the distant moan of the billows forcing air down into the lowest circle of hell. My coarse, cracked fingers clutch the pick handle. Lamplight illuminates the circle before me. My free hand skims the wall as I walk, bouncing over roughly hewn rock. There are 800 miners, but not a sound of hammering on the mountain walls. I will be the first. Today, my hammer will be the first. I rear back with my tool, my mighty weapon, the one that gnaws at mountains and fells them. I strike the wall, and my life is changed forever. The heart of the mountain. The rock face splits before my pick, and I am struck. Not my body, my being is struck, my very soul. I teeter away from the wall, pulling out to steady myself. My hand goes to my chest, rubbing the plate that covers my internal workings. But why? My soul cannot reside there, for it is immaterial. Lamplight from my helmet casts wild shadows along the rock wall. Suddenly, my vision is filled with a purple mass, a purple ball of fuzz, held in a crevice of rock. Reaching in with bare hands, my fingers sink into the hairy surface. It's the size of my fist. It is pulsating, beating. I fall into the wall. Like diving into a pool, I am weightless. I'm looking back at the surface. I'm looking back at myself. Looking back at Zerk. My arm outstretched, hand gripping the new me. Zerk's face is blank. My old body falls limp to the ground. His helmet rolls across the floor and bumps against the wall. The lamp flickers. I am the mountain. This is what it is to be the mountain. My feet go deep into the planet's surface. I do not feel large, for the sky is above, wide and deep. I feel small. Clouds encircle me. They are a shroud over my shoulders, a garland around my head. Rivers of water bubble up from inside me and pour down my face, back, and arms, until they fall from my fingertips into the valley lake. Though made of many kinks of rock, I am not dead. My form is teeming with life. I am a home for bugs, animals, molds, and fish in the water of my belly. The assortment of greens that course in and out of me is beyond count. The roots conspire with the water to split me open, and I give them ground, then I take it back from them elsewhere. My mind takes in an array of mined passages cut into me. The miners have cut them. Like ants, burrowing down into my surface they have come. Downward I search the tunnels, but what am I seeking? My mind rests upon the lowest crew. The Ditchmongers. I see one lying on the cave floor. He seems to be a forgotten memory, a vision of something from a millennia ago. Then, I know it is my body. But what was my name? The rest of the Ditchmongers are coming. They are coming in their tools to work, or with their tools to work. They will find the fallen body. They will bury it because it is dead. A decision must be made. Do I remain as I am, or return to what I was? Meva. I will go back to that name. Though I know she will visit this mountain, she will not know it is me. If only I could make her into the mountain to stand alongside me. How we could tower into the heavens together. Our roots would entangle and we would face the storms together. Our unfailing bodies would endure together forever. No, he really does. Alright. If she never comes, I will never meet her. A rage burns inside my person. I feel lava bubbling in the bowels of my foundation. If remaining here means being isolated from Meva, then curse this mountain. I must return to my old frail worm of a body. But what was my name? Rux? Skirts? Kurtz? A ditchmonger's voice booms out. Anyone seen Zerk? Zerk! That was my name. The ditchmonger crew is coming. They'll find my body on the ground. Assume I had been killed by the mountain or someone whose touch is death. They'll bury my body, and I will be trapped here. I think there's more. Yep, this is more. Why is it starting at the bottom? Because we have not read this. Ah, okay, this is the thing that I had read originally. And I had read down to here. Okay, so this is it. Damn, wait a minute. That means that we just read this. Now we are reading this. And then there's this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Unless, if I click over here, is this a completely different section of text? Yep. Yes, it is. Alright, we have got a lot of more reading to do. It is quite the story. I didn't realize this stream was going to turn so much into story time, but I'm curious. I'm curious about this lore. Also, it might have a solution to a puzzle later. Who knows? How do I return? It must be the same path by which I came so long ago. The purple ball of fuzz. It rests in its crevice. Zerk must touch it again for me to return, but he lies prostrate, dead. He cannot come to me. I must go to him. My thoughts go to the weakness of the rock that surrounds the purple fuzzball. With a small effort, I split the slab of rock free. It shatters on the cave floor, sending a shower of rock across Zerk's body. With it, the fuzzball is carried until it touches Zerk. I am swimming up from the depths of the pool. My head reaches the surface, and I sit up in my own body, just as the rest of the ditchmonger crew arrives. Borax runs to me. Zerk! That whole wall just broke across you. Are you hurt? I cover the fuzzball with my fingers. My mind can't form a response, so I nod. The crew begins their work. I hide the fuzzball in my helmet and put it back on. I look up. The Abominate is watching me. Yep, it's story time now, guys. A visit from corporate. Oh, I always love when corporate comes to visit. Such new bullshit directives all the time. Always fun to hear what's going to happen. Alright. It was the day after I found the purple fuzzball. The ditchmonger crew was now working in the same area where I had found it. A familiar horn echoed through the halls. It was the one to announce Joxon Rexon. Looking up, we saw him coming down the shaft with the two workers in white bodysuits. They were carrying a device between them by long handles that protruded out of its side. Soot settled on the pure white suits. Wherever they bumped into the mine, the walls. Wherever they bumped into the mine walls, they left dark skid marks. I had never known Joxon Rexon to come to the bottom level of the mine. When we were top level, he had always sent someone else down when inspections were needed, but he never came himself. Step away from the walls, he screamed. We complied, and the two workers stepped forward, adjusting their grip on the device. One of them flipped a switch and it began to hum. A screen came to life, its glow turning the white of their suits red. They maneuvered the device along the cave wall. Guided by something on the screen, they stopped in front of the spot in the wall where I dug out the purple fuzzball. The device was giving off a different tone now. They switched it off. One of them pulled on a rubber glove and stuck his finger into the crack. A chill went down my spine. Now I knew what they were looking for. A moment later, the inspector withdrew his hand, shaking his head. Joxon Rexon looked agitated. His face was red and wet with sweat. My instincts told me this inspection wasn't his idea. It had come from further up the food chain. But I knew I had to remain calm. They must be searched, the inspector said. Jackson Rexon smiled wickedly. Of course, he replied. Then to us he said, You will each submit to a thorough search of your body. Remove your clothes. Oh, damn. They're going in! We all scowled and grumbled at this, but we all had to obey him, so each began to take off his clothing. I was in trouble now. The purple fuzzball was still inside my helmet. I started pulling off my shoes, my mind racing for a solution. I was close to the end of the line near Abominate. I had to take a chance that he would help me. I have what they are looking for, I whispered to him. You have the heart of the mountain? I nodded. Help me hide it. I cannot touch it. A beating heart will stop in my hands. The inspectors were already working their way down the line of shivering forms. Weave was searched by 2 inspectors. He was squirming uncomfortably. I took the opportunity to drop the purple fuzzball out of my hat and onto the floor. I covered it with my right foot. Borax's eyes were full of rage. We don't have anything but our tools, Rexon. Why not search our camp? Jackson Rexon gathered his composure and through clenched teeth. The entire camp has already been searched, Borax. Do you think I would come down here to smell your stink if I did not have to? Yeah, time for the cavity search. Oh no, I clicked off of it. Alright. The men in the white carefully checked their rubber gloves for holes before inspecting every crevice of the abominate. He laughed at them. If you go any deeper, you're going to find something you may wish you hadn't. Damn. Alright. The Titchmonger crew laughed. The inspectors checked the abominate's pile of clothes, reaching into the toe of each boot before tossing them aside. Now it was my turn. They began searching my clothes. You're looking for a purple fuzzball, are you not? I whispered. They leaned in towards me. Where is it? I nodded with my head towards Jackson Rexon. I saw him dig it out of the very spot where your machine guided you. They nodded. We will inspect him too. Oh my god. Okay, you're getting revenge on the foreman, yes, but you also expose that you know what they're looking for, which means you're a witness, which means you're related, which means you got more scrutiny on you. And if they don't find it on him, who are they going back to then? One of them went back to searching my clothes, the other to searching me. If he has it with him, he will surely hide it before you are finished with us, I said, hoping they would leave me. My heart sank when only the inspector searching my clothes stopped to go search Jackson Rexon. The other continued. Please lift your feet, he said. Suddenly, his eyes closed and he fell to the floor, dead. The abominate stood over him. I expected to hear the terrified screams of the ditchmongers. Oh. I feel like you skipped something? What? What do you feel like I skipped? Let's see. Full of rage. They're pissed off about him having to search. They're checking their gloves to search the abominant. Joke about the cavity search. They laugh, going through abominant's clothes. Then they start going through his. He's like, hey, I saw the foreman take it. To get out of the spot, in the rock. We'll inspect him too. Hey, go and inspect him now. Attempt. Alright, please lift your feet. And then getting murdered. I think we're up to date, unless we missed something like way, way, way back. Alright, I'm gonna continue. Just making sure. Yeah. I mean, there was a point, where was it? Because I was thinking that too at one point, because I scrolled down a bunch to get all this text on screen, and instead of keeping, like, the bottom of this on here, I, like, completely covered it, but then I, like, looked up and I went, okay, I can see the bottom of that letters where it says, did not have to. And it's like, and then I continued on. So that could be the spot, because I thought I had skipped something too, and it's like, wait, no, we're good. But okay, let's see. Where were we? Okay. Suddenly his eyes closed and he fell to the floor, dead. The abominant stood over him. I expected to hear the terrified screams of the ditchmongers and Roxanne Jackson screaming for the abominant's blood. But all was silent. I had been so intent on hiding the fuzzball that I had not seen what the abominant had done. Looking around now, I saw that everyone was dead. Even Jackson and the other inspector. Are you going to kill me? I trembled. The abominant shook his head. They would have killed us all, even if you gave it to them. Now, a gift. The abominant splayed his hand open against the wall using a pickaxe. He cut off his little finger. He wrapped it in a sock and gave it to me. This is your weapon in case we get separated. Oh my god. Okay, so he literally has lethal touch. Like, things that he touched dies. Interesting. The ditchmonger camp had been ransacked. Sleeping bags were torn to pieces. Their stuffing strewn about the campsite. Our personal packs had been dumped out in a heap and on the floor. The abominant had been right. They did not intend to leave us alive. Weave had owned a spare headlamp, which he had used as a reading headlight. Oh, hey! Weave is finally dead! Hooray! One objective done! Weave had owned a spare headlamp, which he used as a reading light. I tried to locate it in the mix-up of our heaped-up belongings. There was a picture of a child between two proud parents. Perhaps this was Weave when he was younger. He was smiling in the picture, and held a ball. My hand touched something hairy and warm, but lifeless. It was a dead krat. Oh, krat! I wonder if they shake krats to deal with their problems. You know? If they ever played that game, you know, Krat Shaker. The cheese touch, yeah. There was a dead krat, but still soft. Rigor had not yet set in. Weave had cared for the animal like it was a child. Apparently the men in the white suits did not feel the same. I found Weave's headlamp and put it to my pocket. Looking over the camp, I was stunned by our lack of belongings. There wasn't much for the inspectors to ransack. All of our life was spent in a mine. But for what? What was this purple thing hidden in my helmet? Those who did this did not see us as miners digging up the mountain. They saw us as nothing. They thought of us as expendable. And we were all used up. Passing into the main hub that led to the mezzanine level, I saw crews of miners interrogated by many more white suits. Every level of management in the mine assisted them in searches, going through tents and even bedpans. The men in white suits were so preoccupied with searching workers, they did not notice me. A siren sounded, starting deep in the mine and making its way up to the top level. They had found the dead bodies. The entire mine was on lockdown. Men in white suits produced weapons from their coat pockets and strapped them to their hands. The weapons looked to be a mechanical joint with a needle on the end that folded out from the palm. A white-suited inspector shouted for me to get down on my stomach. My instincts told me to run, but I was scared. I hugged the ground. He kicked my knees apart, still shouting. Then I remembered the abominant's gift. When the white suit turned away for a moment, I pulled out the bloody soiled sock the abominant gave me and folded back the cloth to expose the severed finger inside. I put the severed finger against his foot and ran it up his leg until it met his flesh. He dropped to the ground like a rag doll. I carefully unstrapped the needle device from his palm and put it to my own. When the hand closed into a fist, the needle retracted into the palm, so it did not harm the wielder. But when the hand was open, the mechanical arm stretched out from the palm about 8 inches, where a needle protruded that was brown and striped, like the stinger of a wasp. I got up and ran. Some white suits I ran past. Others I stung with the needle, but they even saw me. I killed many with the abominant's finger. It was not physically difficult to kill. My conscience was what was difficult to overcome. I had never been in a position in my life where my life was demanded of me, where the only way I could survive was to kill, but my soul was troubled by killing so many. I was right to kill a few in self-defense, but was I right to kill 100 in my attempt to escape? As I reached the higher levels, I saw fewer inspectors and more soldiers. These were military men, owned by the state. They demanded total compliance from even men in white suits. One of the men in white did not clearly hear an order given to him, so he's asked for clarification. The soldier smacked him to the ground with the butt of his weapon. When I heard them coming, I threw Weave's spare headlamp down the hall and to my own. I got down on the ground, stretching out flat beside the wall like the dead. The soldiers marched past me to inspect the decoy lamp. By the time they reached it, I was gone. This sounds like a good... It really does! This is awesome! I like this story. I was very near the surface now. I took cover against a wall, out of the reach of the swirl of spotlights. I looked down at the needle weapon in my hand and decided not to use it again. I didn't need to have a needle weapon when I also had the abominant's finger. A platoon of soldiers was hopping off a hover vehicle and marching away in the direction I had just come. It was strange to think that these inspectors and military had always been so close at hand. Then I pulled it together. The mining company was not really interested in mining blank rock. Sorry, I put it all together. The mining company was not really interested in mining blank rock. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dug so deep. There's plenty close to the surface to mine for years. They had dug deep and in so many directions, looking for what I now had hidden in my helmet, the heart of the mountain. Oh shit, he found the Arkenstone and the dragons are coming. The last of the soldiers disappeared down the shaft. I slipped beneath the hover vehicle and found a place in its working I could climb up into. The hover vehicle moved on. After some time, it emerged onto the surface. It was night, so there was no sun to greet me, but even the cool, fresh air felt wonderful. I was free of the mine. Okay, what if we click over here? Tools, weapons, food, plants, medicine, magic, and pets. I found myself on a military base. The surface design was stark and open, leaving me few places to hide. The suns were just starting to rise, and with the forest over a mile away in any direction, I had no choice but to find a quiet building in which to hide and perhaps get some sleep. There were over 50 buildings, some teeming with activity and others unused. I cracked the door of the closest building and seemed unoccupied and went in. The interior was dark. The room had row upon row of shelving. The only light came in through the opaque windows, and that let in a faint orange haze from the rising suns. Nobody could see through those windows. I smelled food. This was not the mere gruel we were served in the blank mines. These were special items that were probably reserved for top-ranking military personnel. I found the markings of a chip buddy on the shelf. There were slices of bread, scrap gleaned from a fryer, and deep-fried roots, ready to be combined. Well, the story is really good. I'll have to watch the VOD because you gotta get going. Alright, see you, Crazy Kane! Yeah, definitely worth checking out on YouTube later for anyone who can't catch the whole thing. This definitely seems pretty awesome. See you, Crazy Kane. Have a good one. Alright, where were we? Ready to be combined. There were slices of dried degreased cheese, backed on flattened dough. It was stored on the top of a big bowl of compote smothered in Comandiac curry. There was a bowl of guacamole made of manicado, and the usual boxes of Redruo, and someone's dried pet Benjamin Bonk. Okay, now they're just making it difficult. So the VOD, you should just edit down to the reading section. Post that. I mean, I would if I read it all as one big thing, but I've got all these cuts in it, and it's going to feel awkward and jumpy and glitchy. I mean, maybe. It's all mostly going to be this section anyways. But I will definitely mark in the VOD where the story is. Where it starts, where it ends. Probably the beginning of each page section. Alright. A tin can sported a green beard. I put this can in my pocket. Then steeped properly dried Spikel's beard mold. Sorry, when steeped properly, dried Spikel's beard mold makes an excellent tea. There's a slight glow cast across the shelf by Frotzomatic Elixir of Self-Illumination. I did not want to glow in the dark, so I left that on the shelf. I also chose to leave the Navo untouched. It was always good not to touch Gavno, especially when it is cold. A medicine cabinet held Groba juice, and while I could use some short-term invisibility just about now, it was against my code of conduct to use a product created by the Groba regime. I picked up a bottle of Minoset's Majesty, but it was empty. Just my luck. I placed a nummy-numb towel on my forehead to quickly bring a little peace and comfort to my nerves. When I leaned my head against the shelf, I knocked over a potion of Palinka. Not really my thing, but I left the bottle where it fell. I took some Kyla medicine that helped my aching feet. Okay, enough of the weird fang-dangled words. We get it! Further into the building, I heard the scuttle of animals in cages. Each animal had wires protruding from their body. At the time, I didn't know why, but I'm sure now the wires were probably used to harvest the diverse animal energy. There is a Denris, a fur cat, an orange cat, useful for distraction in battle, a mated pair of Gelitsaur, and a Givatone. A Nomvius, also known as a Novi, or Novimus, also known as a Novi, looked cuddly enough, but didn't trust me enough to let me pet it. One cage held a tiny, three-eared rabbit, and it was labeled Johnny Horse. A rusty cage held a hungry Grumplin and an elusive white-tuft bed devil. A wiry dog-sized Soft ran in circles in its cave, while a flat-faced tentacle-maned Cephalokraken blinked its lazy eye. A spring-powered servant, called Jedith Butler, fed the inhabitants of the cages. One animal was labeled Artemenius, and there were burn marks along the door of its enclosure. Next to it was a caged feral mooncat, who kept howling, "I am a Serena." There was a neglected cage of animals called Stutnik, Wagashnag, and Rami. They looked malnourished, so I threw them handfuls of food in with them. I realized how bright the room had grown with the rising suns. If anyone came into this building, it would be hard to hide. I needed to find a place to hide and sleep until nightfall. I pulled down a painting of a black hole and set it on a magnificently monotone mandolin. When I lifted the painting, the triple M was gone, and there was enough space cleared on the shelf for me to lay down. I squeezed into the shelf. A tool belt hung down, hiding me. It had a cheese fork, a cool spot, an eye of Asterion, and an old Hobbyhawks. 2 MacGuffins. Okay, this is just them being funny. 2 MacGuffins, an oily flogskin croak, and a panic button. My eyes drooped closed, and I dreamed of a digital Renzim set in my dreams. Could not see a floating spatless. Space never looked more broad and full of adventure than in that deep sleep state. It was as if I was looking at the altered light of an RG bag bomb. I found a pile of dirt and started digging with a tectonic universal extractor, too, until I was speaking my words. My words were not being heard by anyone. It's like I was speaking into a telebox, or tailbox, or perhaps I had been hit by a procrastinator ray. My hands were as cold as the 7th ring of Eureka, so I used a Tinderkrog to warm them. Oh my god, they keep going with these words. A Zuggas took me back in time 30 seconds, but I was just back to digging in the dirt. Something came down on my bed with a loud snap. I reached out my dream hand and stopped a stick from hitting me again. I read the carving in the stick's bark. A dirt pole, the oddly shaped stick of 823, 3 out of 7 whacks. This was weird because it only hit me once, and did not appear to be very oddly shaped. This was turning into a less than stellar dream. I used an Ellard to smack myself in the face and wake up. Hi, under that. We're reading a giant wall of text. Because lore dump. We need our lore dump. Uh-oh. Boop. This game does not like getting clicked out of. But hi, Bean. How you doing? Actually, let me give you a shout out. There. Alright, back to Armikrog. When I awoke from my blissful slumber, the suns were going down. The room was taking on a cooler hue. I crawled out from the shelf. I reached into my pocket. I felt a sock with Abominant's finger. I considered taking more weapons in the building. There were Kratchongs, a Marauder, my axe fighting is terrible, a Novice Shield, an Obstrogiliton, a Sandwich Bazooka. I will regret not picking this up if I ever needed to kill a sandwich. A Repulsive Shield, and a Yogborough. None of these weapons could do what the Abominant's severed finger could do in an instant. Under cover of darkness, I left the warehouse, running from building to building to the woods. Soldiers came in by hovercraft and left again. The air was abuzz with the frustration and panic. What they were looking for was missing. I knew this because they were looking for what was in my helmet. Alone on the outside. At the outskirts of the base, there were guards at 100-foot intervals. Some had needle weapons strapped to their hands, others had rifles. There was no way I could make it around them without a confrontation. I gripped the sock housing the Abominant's finger, and I walked casually up to the closest guard. When he saw me, he leveled his rifle at me. "Do not come any closer," he grunted. "I have orders from Joxon Rexon," I said, holding up my hands. The other guards turned to see what the commotion was about. The guard didn't believe me, but it was good enough of an excuse I could think of on such short notice. "So what about ref sheet?" Yeah, under that. I was thinking about, I was gonna ask if you'd be willing to do up a ref sheet for me. since you did such a nice job with the emotes. Well, I'll go over everything with you sometime outside of stream. I can send you all the details. It helps because I already have like a 3D model of my character that I completely made myself, so I can send you that as a reference. But I want, actually like drawn, and not just 3D renders. Anyway, so I will be able to send you all that stuff. Anyways, let's get back to reading the giant wall of text. Where were we? Okay. Guard didn't believe me, but it was as good of an excuse as I could think of on such short notice. I could see the woods just beyond. It would be the perfect place to hide. If I could make it into the woods, I would be free. I yelled at him. You must listen to me right now. A bluff only works if you're completely committed to it. The guard shined a bright light on my face. You're a miner? I need your identification. I threw the finger sock to him and he caught it. What is this? My identification, I replied. He opened the sock and stuck his hand inside. I was already running toward him when he went limp and fell to the ground. The surrounding guards were confused at the moment, so I scooped up the finger sock and ran for the trees. The rest of the guards snapped into action. Bullets and darts shot past me, but their hesitation was enough for me to reach the tree line before any of them could get good aim. I reached the first tree and slid into perfect darkness of its shadow. Fan out! After him! I pressed deeper into the woods, switching my headlamp on to light my way, then off to hide. Behind me I could hear the soldiers coming. I ran into a clearing and nearly over the edge of a deep ravine. At its edge I skidded to a stop. Behind me there was already the sound of soldiers approaching. I pulled the purple fuzzball, still beating, from my helmet and tucked it into my pocket. Then I threw the headlamp off the cliff and into the ravine. It was far enough down that the light was just visible, but the helmet itself could not be seen. I ran to the left along the ravine's edge, over the waist-high scrub brush and a few boulders. Most of our people were right-handed. We wrote from left to right, so I hoped the soldiers would think I went to the right. Without the headlamp, I could easily have fallen into another ravine, but I was counting on luck this time. I had only a few seconds before the guard would come into the clearing, and I'd have to move in silence. 2 guards broke into the clearing, and I dropped to the ground. I froze on all fours, watching them stop at the ravine's edge and look over the side at the helmet lamp's light down below. My lungs were dying for air, but I had to breathe slowly to keep from being heard. The first one said, "Did he fall? The light's not moving." I was crawling away from as the second guard said, "He either fell or he's trying to get us to think he fell." They decided that if I fell, I'd be too injured to get away, so they fanned out to search the area in case I had not fallen. The soldiers may not have been fooled by my trick, but they didn't have the confidence in their convictions on their hunt. They did not confirm that I did not fall, yet it gnawed in the back of their mind that I might have yet still be down there. Still, they had lamps and I did not. They split up, the first guard heading away from me to their left, the second one right toward me. On my belly in the grass, I waited for the second guard to pass by. As he clunked through the grass, he scared up insects and chipmunks who ran ahead of him. Just as he passed me, I hopped up and touched the back of his neck with the finger. He dropped silently to the ground. I stayed down low, hoping to get out of the clearing and back into the cover of wood. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and it was practically bright compared to the darkness I was used to in the mines. In the silence of those woods, every tree creak, every blade of grass that turned in a slight breeze could be heard, yet I did not hear the hoofbeats of hulking white stag that stood before me. Jux and Rexon described this beast as a monster. It was the elk. or ilk, elk, ilk, a mythical creature that has evaded hunters for a generation. He had a huge rack of horns, but he did not have the fur like other ilk. He had shiny, scaled skin that made him repulsive to his own kind. There's some supernatural way inside him that produces bolts of electricity when he finds another of his kind that he likes. Therefore, he could not find love. He cannot find friendship. His family had to abandon him. He was the great symbol of broken hearts, and by the looks of him, was a powerful creature not to be trifled with. The ilk bowed his head to me. The horns came down to my face, and I could see tiny pops and ripples of electricity webbed between the spikes. I can't explain how I knew this, but he was seeking revenge on Jox and Rexon. He intended to break the heart of my ex-boss. The ilk turned and leapt into the woods as if to have me follow. As soon as he disappeared into the dark, I could hear the clamoring of more guards entering the clearing behind me. There were 3 guards. They ran to the ravine, then fanned out. One tripped on the body of the first guard and called out to the others. I dove into a pile of leaves, burying myself in them. It would have been a terrible hiding place in the daylight, but in the darkness of night it would suffice. They all took off in the wrong direction, assuming they were on my trail. Once the sound of their receding footsteps grew silent, I crawled out of the pile of leaves and continued to the right. After the ilk, deeper into the woods. It was then, in that darkness, that I was seized by a terrible loneliness. Truly, I was no more free stumbling through these woods than I had been in the mine. The image of Meva came back to me, but it was not to comfort me. My heart was sick, nobody wanted me, and I loved no one. I had seen hog dogs that were more loved than I. Would I ever know love? Someone save me, find me, love me. Alright. Okay, we're halfway through the story almost. Hi, Metal. We're doing good. We're playing Armikrog. It's a point-and-click adventure game, and it's got this weird art style, and it's actually really, really neat. But I've found this giant wall of lore, and as one does when finding a giant wall of lore, I am reading it. So we have read this section, and we have read this section, and we have read this section, and now we are reading this section. Actually, is this different? Yes. Okay, that one's different. Yeah. So each one of these big long walls of text here is more of this single thing. So we're following the story of this guy. It's on this alien world, and he works deep down in the mines, and his foreman would go on and on and on about this pretty girl that he's in love with. So this guy snuck into the foreman's hut and found basically a picture of her, and then ended up making a copy of it. And then the foreman found out that there was a copy of this picture and got jealous of everyone who was on his work team. So he sent them all to the deepest part of the mine, and in there this guy found this weird purple fuzzy ball thing called the Heart of the Mountain, and when he touched it, it let him become the mountain. And eventually he was able to go back to his body, his normal body, and no longer be the mountain. But then suddenly, a day or whatever later, the company that was running the mines came looking and inspecting everyone, trying to find this same thing, this purple fuzzball, this Heart of the Mountain. So he ended up getting help from another alien that has the ability to kill anything it touches, who then killed everybody in the room because they realized they were going to just all be executed for what they had found, because the company wanted it and didn't want witnesses. So this alien that kills on touch killed everybody, chopped off his pinky finger, wrapped it up in a sock, and gave it to the guy that we're following, because he can now use it as a weapon, because anyone he pokes with this pinky finger, this severed finger, will just immediately, instantly be dead. And then, yeah, he's escaped the mines. He ended up on a hover transport that brought him to a military base, and he just got out of the military base, running from the guards that were stationed around the exterior, and now he's off into the woods. So that's basically the recap of what's been going on. Alright. A meeting in the woods. When daylight broke, I could hear the chatter of chipmunks even over my burning leg muscles. My clothes were cut to shreds from walking among the low-hanging tree branches. I decided it would be best to find a hiding place. I assisted by the light of day, then rest until nightfall. I found a large nest of coiled branches just above head height in a tree. The nest was still warm, as if the occupant just left. There was no chatter of chipmunks in this eerily silent place. Then I saw several 3-inch triangular teeth laying on the floor of the nest. It was the nest of an ichthyusan sawworm. I decided to find a new hiding place. Movement. I saw movement coming from my right periphery. Next there was a moment... Oh. I clicked out of it. Next there was a moment from my left, a white cylindrical shape crawling along the ground. Another link of white cylinder crawled from a log just in front of me, and the pieces were drawn to each other. It was the sawworm assembling into a whole. I darted before it could come together, and but I couldn't make it out of the clearing before the great worm exploded out of the ground in front of me. Its brutal maw was a spinning buzzsaw of triangular teeth. The head split open longwise, make the shape of a bear trap. The sawworm had seen the shape of a bear trap, and it was a master of imitating other shapes because of its nerve net of a brain. It had no creativity of its own. It lunged at me, then tumbled into a coil of white tubes. Spitting and frothing, it was so hungry and desperate for me. The mouth spun and shot loose teeth at me that hit the tree beside me with a thunk, thunk, thunk. I looked for the best exit, and I admit I was in such a panic that I couldn't tell where I was or which way to go, but the sawworm was back underground. I took the abominant's finger out of my pocket and was ready for the resurfacing worm when I felt a tap on my shoulder. When I turned around, I was in such shock that I stood in awe. The sawworm had reassembled into an image of my own likeness. It clearly was not me, but was the best image the sawworm could pull off. Links of meat put together to build a frame stood aping my posture. Its eyes stared through me like a dead man. It looked to hold a finger in its hand just like me. Before I could lunge at the creature, its mouth ripped open and the triangular teeth shot at me. Thunk into the wood beside me, thunk in my shoulder, and whiff off the ground behind me. The abominant's finger fell to the ground. I don't know where. The beast leapt upon me, and I put a hand on the top and bottom of its mouth as the saw blade spun and came down onto my face. I reached up and felt the purple fuzzball. I turned my head away and saw everything went slow motion. I was aware of dirt settling in front of me. My fingers reached out for an acorn and stuck the purple fuzzball against it, then jammed them both into the sawworm's face. The sawworm went limp as its being went into the acorn. I put the fuzzball away and held up the acorn in my hand. A chipmunk came out from his hiding spot, sniffing the air. I tossed the acorn onto the ground, and the chipmunk put it in his teeth, then scurried back to his hole. I picked up the abominant's finger. Having left the sawworm clearing, I found a cool stream and drank deeply from it. The chilling cascade satisfied my dry throat. I washed my face, a baptism. When I opened my eyes, there was Green, a female child standing across the river. I froze. She watched me for a moment with her huge eyes. She took a couple of steps back, staring at me the whole time. A smile broke across her face. I realized that she was challenging to catch her. I had heard enough fairy stories to know that one should not chase little green girls into a forest. It cannot end well. I am Zerk. I stood up and she took a few more steps back, still watching me, still smiling. My instincts failed me. The right decision seemed to be the wrong one, and the wrong decision seemed to be the right one. Who are you? I asked. This time she scowled at me, her eyebrows coming down, her nose wrinkling up in anger. She shook her head and waved a finger at me. The motion of her waving finger produced sparkles that traced her every gesture, then momentarily hung in the air before dissipating. She took a few more steps back, her smile returning. This time I took the bait. I chased her. Laughter exploded from her lips, and she ran. Her laughter was so true and free that my heart was lifted from despair at the sound of it. And for the first time in a long time, I laughed. Yeah, we're still reading. We're almost halfway done. There is a lot. There is a lot. I'm kind of hoping this is... I mean, this is an awesome story, but I'm kind of hoping this is the only one in all of Armikrog. At least this size. I feel like they should have broken this up into, like, different regions through the game. Hi, Joe! We are currently reading. She was so quick, my feet struggled to keep up, let alone gain on her. Then my feet found the beat of the forest, like a rhythm in the woods, that my body had to match. And when it did, my feet moved all the more swiftly. I lost green girl in a thicket, unsure which way she went. I lost the green girl in a thicket. Not unsure of which way she went, I stopped to listen for her footfalls. A pine cone hit me right in the forehead, and I heard her giggle. I moved towards the sound of her voice. I caught sight of her foot sticking out from behind a fern. The fern was shaking with her laughter. I dove for her foot, grabbing it with both hands. My chest and face slammed into the rich black soil. She screamed with delight, and the next instant we were both on the ground, rolling and laughing. I helped her up. She smiled at me. "I caught you," she said. "It was not you who caught me." I was surrounded on all sides by green people. They came out of the shadows of the trees and bushes watching us. The men among them held bows and long spears. A shimmer of sparkles hung in the air around them. I held my hands up in surrender. There were too many of them. I could not escape, even with the abominate's finger. The nearest of them motioned for me to lie down on the ground, which I did. One of the men let out a laugh. I did not think the situation was funny at all. I scowled, which seemed to trigger even more laughter. Little girl got down next to me and intimidated my position and scowl. More laughter. All at once the laughter stopped. Glancing around, I saw the people had all disappeared. When I turned back to the little girl, she was gone too. I got up on my knees and called out, "Hello?" A female voice not far off replied, "Did someone say hello?" "It was me," I answered. Nearby bushes were shaking. It sounded like she was having difficult time making her way through them. "Well, who is me?" asked the stranger. "My name is Zerk. Who are you?" I called back. Then she stepped out of the bushes and into the clearing. Her long brown hair parted, and I saw her face. My heart stopped. It was Meva. When worlds collide. "What are you doing here, Meva?" I asked, trying to mask my excitement. She seemed puzzled by something, as if I had just woken her from a dream. "I was trying to meet my fiancé, Joxon Rexon, but he had a work emergency in the blank mine," and then her voice trailed off. "Joxon Rexon?" I mumbled. "Yes, do you know him? I worked in the blank mine. I knew him." "Do you know what's happening there?" I nodded. "Yes, I found something in the mine, something they desperately want. I will tell you everything, but we need to leave here before the green people come back. Meva grabbed my arm. Did you see a little green girl too? Yes. She continued, I was waiting for Jox and Rexon next to the forest when this little green girl appeared. I followed her here. Me too. She made me get down on my knees and be all quiet. Or it looked like, for her fellow green people were going to kill me. Eva was putting something together in her mind. They disappeared, did they not? I nodded. It's as if they wanted us to find each other, she said. These words were like fuel on the fire of my heart. Here she was, standing before me, and she was perfect. Her face was perfect. It looked like a planet. No, planets are too busy. Her face was more like a moon. Oh my god. I don't know if saying someone's face looks like a moon is a compliment. All I'm thinking of is like craters and blotches and stuff. Alright. Standing out in the darkness, pale and beautiful. Ah, okay. Maybe that makes more sense. She waved her hand in front of my face. I realized she'd been talking for a while, and I was lost in adoration. Hello, Zerk? What do you want to do? Love you, the words flew out of my mouth before I could pull them back in. Oh, well, shit. I was embarrassed and terrified. My face turned red, and I could not look at her. For a moment, I waited for her to strike me for imprudence, but she didn't. I pulled the slate from my pocket with her face scribed on it, and held it up. This was going to sound crazy no matter how it came out, but I had to say it. She had to know. Meva, I saw your image on Jox and Rexon's desk. When I returned to work, this and the image self-scribed on the cave walls. I know they came from me. My entire crew was in danger because I could not stop it. One of the members of my crew died of my passion for you. He gave his life to cover up for my mistakes and help me escape. My love for you has sustained me in the darkness. She hadn't slapped me yet, so I continued. I will never be the same. Just seeing your face has wrecked me for life. But my response to being ruined is not sadness, because it is my great joy to be heartbroken by you. Even now, if you want me to die, just give the word, and it will be so. Just ask me to die, ask me to move a mountain into the sea, ask me anything. Just don't send me away. Wow, he is simping hard. I tore the hem of my garment. I tore the hem of my garment. Damn, I'm such a fool. I can't believe I'm saying this to you, but I don't care. I don't care what you think, what anyone else thinks. I don't even care what I think. My soul was lost in the mountain, and my body has no life in it. I could not wake until I heard your name. Meva, Meva! How Your Name is my favorite song. Let me sing to you, Meva. I held my arms out wide and sang as loud as I could, not caring who could hear me. There is a name that slays me in the name of love. There is a name that is a weapon of weapons. It sustained the soul of this man in the underworld, and will sustain me forever in the overworld. I did not care, she responded. I was too terrified by the possibilities, but seeing my silence, she reached into the pocket of her skirt and pulled out a rock. My heart nearly burst, for there, scribed on her rock surface, was my face. It says sang, but you had to sing it there? Ah, alright, fine, I will sing it. There is a name that slays me in the name of love. There is a name that is a weapon of weapons. It has sustained the soul of this man in the underworld, and it will sustain me forever in the overworld. I don't... There's no rhyme to it. There's no flow. It's not so much singing. I tried. The Courting of Meva. Where did you get that? I asked in astonishment. Oh my god. Thank you for the biddies, Joe. She explained that when the image of her face appeared all over the blank mines, her father was alerted. They brought him a few pieces of etched stone as evidence. Her father demanded to know who had done it, so this person could be punished. But Meva wanted to know for a different reason. She knew that the tiles could not have emanated from Jackson Rexon, because he did not love her. Marrying Meva would put Jackson Rexon in a better position to manipulate the blank mining operation. That was all he desired, not her. So Meva took one of the blanks with her face and visited her aunt, who was known as Witchy Lady. Though few had courage to call her that to her face, her aunt's predictions in a mixed bag. Sometimes she was right, but often wrong. At one time, she had been involved in guiding the mining operation to the richest veins of blank slate, but after a few costly wrong predictions, she was no longer asked. But Meva was desperate and had no one else in which to turn. Her aunt flipped the tile over in her hands, running her fingers along the edges. Then she gave Meva a blank tile and told her to keep it close to her at all times, and an answer would come. This was not the answer Meva had hoped for, but she took the tile home and put it under her pillow. That night she dreamt that she was getting married to someone with no face, and when she awoke, my face was etched into the tile. When I heard this, I was emboldened. I took her hand and asked her to come with me. She nodded. We didn't know exactly where to go, so we chose a direction that was away from the mine. We stuck close to the main roads to avoid the wild animals in the deeper woods, but we didn't walk on the road for fear of capture. As the days wore on, the sound of hover vehicles' engines lessened, then ceased all around. Or ceased altogether. I remember one day in particular. We were walking over rolling hills that followed a river. I agreed to play a game of sorts. We would take turns asking a question. The other person had to answer with total honesty. She went first. Do you believe in love at first sight, Zerk? I said I did not see how it could be true. How could someone love another they had only seen their face? Love is more than infatuation. Love is more than feeling. So how could the mere sight of another being bring about such depth of commitment, self-sacrifice, and revelation? She reminded me that I was supposed to be answering her question, not asking my own. So I told her, in earnest, that I had seen many pretty females before I had seen her face etched into that blank, and there had always been infatuation. But when I saw her face, it was different. Maybe not love, maybe not infatuation. I knew she was someone I needed to love. My turn. Do you love Jackson Rexon? I asked. She did not. But the marriage was something she agreed to because there was no alternative. Her family wanted it. His family wanted it. What point was there in resisting? But now things were different. With the dream and my face etched into the blank in her pocket. How did you come to be a miner? She asked. I feared her reaction to this question, but I told her anyway. I told her how my two brothers and I were sold into servitude when I was very young. I told her how we ended up in mining through my though my older brothers were near to being sent into the military. I told her about the day I got word that they had both died when a mine shaft collapsed on them, and so, not knowing anything about my parents, I was alone in the world. Do you love me? I asked. She took some time to think about her response. Then she said that she wasn't sure. She needed to know me better. So it went between us all that day, and as the day wore on, I realized I had felt at the sight of her face, back in Jackson Rexon's office was changing, blossoming like a flower. If I had been back in that mine shaft with my hand on the wall, I would not have etched her face into the blanks. I would have not have etched her very soul. Damn. Okay, that's half of this. I'm going to go and take a bathroom break, and then we're gonna... What the fuck?
Others to great heights.
Oh.
And your objectives shall be reached.
Whoops, I clicked on that. I'm gonna go take a quick break to go to the washroom. Then come back. Then we're probably gonna go and do a puzzle, and then we'll come and read the second half of the story. So I'm just going to go and throw up the intermission screen, and I'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Hello, hello. We are back. Alright, let's resume our Armikrog playthrough. Like I said, I want to go and see if we can try and find another puzzle or something to do, and then we will resume with the story. My throat is getting a little sore from all the reading. Nope, did not mean to go out here yet. Ah, yes. It's got that good squish to it. Alright, down we go. Okay, we can get off on this level, but it looks like we can go lower still. Oop. There's yet another one of these things. When Crazy Kane watches the VOD later, they're probably going to be like... I was like, no! How dare you? Why have you not gone back to reading the story? Why is there this gap in between? Just need like a moment for my voice to kind of rest. Okay, so this just brings us all the way back here. Yep, I'm gonna take another sip. Ah, I've been having sips throughout the night. Guess we will go back where we came from since I've already been up there. Hi, Jackson. How you doing, Bean? Here, let me give you a shout out. We're doing weird stuff. We're playing Armikrog, which is all claymation. It's a claymation point-and-click adventure, and it's weird. And we found a giant wall of text with a very interesting love story on it, and we were reading it, but we have been reading it for like the past hour, and we're half done. So we're taking a break to explore more around in this game before we go back and finish the other half of the story. Oh, shit! Okay, this is the thing. So it's 2, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, and then the... What? So let me fix for that ref. Alright. Sweet. I shall look at them later when I get the chance to. Oh, looks like we can't even fire this cannon anyways. Probably need a handle to put in here. Another door missing a handle. Alright. Send it. Nope, nope. I need... Beak-Beak. Go push the button. Unless we have no power. Okay, I guess he pushes the button. Alright, we don't have power. My lord. So sick. English is hard. Yeah, English is hard. Just line work? Yeah, that'll be good. Line work will be good. Yeah. Go chill. Have good vibes. Alright, we've done more exploring. I guess we're gonna go back to, oh, there's a lever here. What does this do? Oh, they all have levers. None of them seem to have done anything, at least not here. Tricky, tricky. Alright, you know what? Beak-Beak stand on the button.
Nice work, Beak-Beak.
Turn off the light in this room. Go back here. Oh, shit. Okay. Things are happening now. They grayscaled all of the, Tricky, tricky. Okay. So they decolorize. All these. So, green, red, purple... Alright, we'll get green, red, purple, blue, yellow. 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 Right, green is all the way over here. Oh, move them over each other too. Okay, yellow and purple make green. Okay, we need to... So that's blue. And yellow. Okay. Green. Nope, 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 nope. We need to rotate those back. Okay, we need yellow. Blue. Okay, green. And then this one has to be red. Okay, there we go. Green, red, purple. Okay, I'm gonna rotate this guy. Okay, this one's gonna become purple, just for us easily. Green, red, purple, blue, and last has to be yellow. Uh-oh. How do I get these three to rotate? Is there no crank for these three? Okay, what's over here? Okay. These three, these three, these three, these three, these three. Okay, these two don't get rotated. These two are just there, which means I need to move this yellow one all the way to here. Hi, Abidvu. Or, yeah, you know what? That's the other thing I could also do. I could rotate... Looks like it doesn't actually move them. Yes, it does move them. Okay. Actually, yeah, I have to be able to move this group over here. Because I need this yellow to be on here, because if I was able to transfer this yellow along, then every time I rotated this component, it would hide it. Or, well, I guess... because this one rotates... yeah. This one doesn't influence what happens over here at all. Oh, jeez. Okay, it spins all of them, but it spins the end one. Okay, so then now I should be able to get yellow. Wait, no, this one has to be yellow. There we go. Yellow, blue. Okay. Which means I need blue in that final position, yellow in that second to last one. Okay, I've got both yellows here. Because it was green, red, purple, yellow, blue, right? Also, hi, Abidvu. Okay, yes. Green, red, purple, blue, yellow. Is that orange? I can't tell if that's yellow or orange. It's one of the two. I think that might be orange, actually, now having looked at it. Okay, it's orange, not yellow. Okay, that gets most of it done. We just need to get red. red, and then this last one has to be green. So now if we put blue here... Ha ha ha! There we go. Well, I heard a sound effect come from the right, so I think something opened in this door. Indeed, there is a new way. Okay, before I go on adventuring further, we've done our puzzles. We're gonna get back to the story that is written on this wall. That started here, and we've read this line, and this line, and this line, and this line, and now we need to read this line. Punishment and crime. We came to an area where the terrain grew suddenly steep. We struggled to ascend, clutching at trees and bushes to pull ourselves upward. The road, off to our right, was very tempting. But even though we were far from the mine, I still feared exposure if we walked openly on a road so close to the populated areas. We climbed over a particularly large boulder, only to be greeted by a wide area of broken stones. The trees and the bushes were gone, leaving us exposed. It was no use hiding. We decided we might as well go up onto the road. I took Meva's hand and helped her up the slope to the road. When we reached the top, she didn't let go. We walked hand in hand, arm in arm. The game of questions had grown sporadic as our minds ran out of things to talk about, so we walked in silence, just happy to be together. Meva's footsteps had a different cadence than mine. I had a shuffle and a kick that developed from walking through dark mine shafts. The shuffle was to make sure that there was no unseen boulders in my path. The kick was to knock smaller rocks off the path as a courtesy to the miners coming up behind. Meva, however, glided over the ground with a grace that matched her upbringing amid a class of valued poise, balance, and dance. We rounded a corner, and there was a small army of royal guards who had been hiding along the side of the road. I hated myself for not being more vigilant. They were all highly trained, fully armed, strike-proof vest guards. There were two groups, one dressed in red and one dressed in black. Their leader was the tallest one, the one they called Baboot. He was the only one wearing both red and black. All their faces were obscured by helmets sporting tall red plumes. "Stop!" commanded one of the one they called Baboot. We complied. Meva clutched her arm tightly. The one called Baboot quickly motioned to the guards dressed in red, calling out each of their names. Regiment Blood, Tannic, Stryborg, Valval, Abenoid, York, Alabar, Ken Keystrider, Hanaxidus, Filthbert, Ayanka, Kern, John Aubrey, Robo Burger, Roger Cockles. Oh my god. Roscott, Mitchell, Hot Coals. The red guards held up their hands to show the projectile needle strapped to their pawns. "Step away from her," Baboot called out to me. They clearly knew who we were. We were pretty easy to identify, me in my dirty rags, and Meva in her fine garments of upper class, a miner and a princess. I tried to step away from Meva, but she pulled me even tighter, then opened my cloak and pulled it around herself to block any shot that might come our way. "No, you cannot shoot without hitting me." Baboot chuckled, then nodded to the guards dressed in black and called each of their names as they pointed their arms towards us, taking aim. Regiment Death, Darkleth, Maddlenot, Fang Laserheart, Edgar Bob Lemmings, Flippy Jankerson, I swear, they probably this is before ChatGPT even existed, but I swear they asked ChatGPT to invent names. And this is what it came up with. Ollie Cannoli, Marmos at Ellipse, Astradamus Undershaft. Wow. That's a name. Astridamus Undershaft. Anthony A.J. Reed. Dr. Spot Pawn Breath Hansen. That was my exit Louis. The Great Fifi. I had no... They were good enough shots to hit without harming Meva. Meva yelled again, "If you shoot, I will pluck the dart out of him and stab myself. Then what will you tell my father as he removes your heads?" All the guards remained ready to fire, but hesitated, then looked to Baboot for direction, as they weren't sure what to do. The double cross. Dang, that's what I should have done? What? Was for your names, Joe? Astradamus Undershaft? There we go. Well, if an Astradamus Undershaft appears in chat, we'll know who it is. Alright, the double cross. The one called Baboot looked at Meva and said, "Is this not your kidnapper?" Meva shouted back at him, "My father is my kidnapper. My ex-fiancée is my kidnapper. Loneliness is my kidnapper. But this miner is not my kidnapper." Baboot paused, then called out two of the guards, one from each group. Tannic, Darkleth. As the two guards stepped forward, Baboot ordered all others to return to their base. The small sense of relief I felt by the exit of the guards was quickly wiped away as the one they called Baboot slowly leaned in to whisper to the two other guards. With eyes fixed on us, they were clearly formulating some sort of plan. Suddenly, the two guards charged us. I pushed Meva away. "Run!" I screamed. The first guard swung his fist at me. I ducked, bringing my fist up to his stomach. He fell back, clutching himself, struggling for air. The second guard kicked at my legs, and I fell onto my back. He brought his needle down on me, and I caught his wrist, stopping the needle just inches from my chest. We strained against each other for a moment. Suddenly, he went limp and rolled off me. I looked up to see Baboot standing over me with his needle hand pointing towards me, but suddenly he lowered it. Then I realized he shot both the other guards, needles protruding from their backs. Meva and I shared puzzled looks. The one called Baboot took off his helmet, revealing long hair that fell free, almost reaching the ground. God damn! "Quace!" Meva cried out and ran to her. They embraced. Later, Meva told me that Quace had been one of her playmates they were growing up. She had gotten her name, and once she had bet her whole inheritance on a single hand of cards, and won with a Quace. Robo-Burger Roger Goggles. Yes. The epic Robo-Burger Roger Goggles. It was clear to me in that moment that Meva was no ordinary person. In the company of Quace, she seemed elevated to her royal position again. They talked of nannies, summer cottages, exotic pets, travels to meet dignitaries in other countries, and little sandwiches with the crust cut off. Finally, the conversation returned to the situation at hand. Quace told us that there was a massive hunting going on for us. A lifetime of wages had been promised to anyone who turned us in. The only condition was that Meva must be brought in alive, and I must be brought in dead. Quace opened a map and showed us the placement of guards and which areas to avoid. Luckily, the search was concentrated away from us because they had thought I was heading in the opposite direction. Quace knew of a safe house that at one time belonged to an old widow, who later died of food poisoning. It's an interesting little detail. Meva was puzzled by this news and asked Quace how Quace knew of this safe house. For years, Quace worked with the criminal underground, helping thieves escape the royal family's dungeons. Meva was stunned at first, but realized this could work in our favor. Quace told us that there was one problem with the safe house. If we stayed in it for more than 2 days, we would be transformed into baby goat. What? I'm sorry, what? What sentence is this? If we stayed in it for more than 2 days, we would be transformed into baby goats. Okay, there's been a lot of weird shit in this story so far, but... What? What? Okay, you know what? Okay, moving on. Meva pointed her finger up the river on the map, not far from the safe house. Quace told us to find a boat and float down to the town of Grint. The town was rural, and many outsiders came to buy and sell, so we would not stand out. Then we could make our way to yet another cottage in the mountains. The place was even more rural, so nobody would find us for as long as we wanted to stay, and we wouldn't be turned into baby goat. What is that? What? What are these sentences that I'm reading? Like, for all the other weird shit that has happened in this story, I feel like this should not be catching me off guard. But it's just, what? I'm gonna let you guys argue amongst yourself about whether this is her being just silly, or oh my god, Joe. That is in fact a goat. Yeah. I'll let you guys figure out if she's just being silly to mess with them, or if it's true. I don't know. I don't know in this world. I feel like it's true. Also, if the safe house once belonged to an old widow, why was her cause of death food poisoning and not turning into baby goat? And, moving on. Alright. Quace gave us the map. I took the backpacks from the dead guards, giving one to Meva and taking one for myself. Meva and Quace hugged each other. Quace begged forgiveness for her treachery. Meva said, "I cannot pardon you as a member of the royal family, but I do as a friend." They embraced and we left Quace standing there alone in the road. We got off the main path, and at one point Quace indicated on the map. For several days we threaded our way through the trees and over the streams, until finally we reached the safe house. It was a simple shack of wood with a roof of straw. Inside, the air smelled of mold, and the floor was bare dirt. The walls were covered in simple paintings of goats. What is with the goats? A fireplace made of stacked stones towered up through the thatched roof. I couldn't imagine anyone staying long, but without the even without the threat of turning into a baby goat. What am I even reading anymore? It started out as this epic of survival in deep, dark mines, and a star-crossed love off in the future, and treachery and murder by an evil corporation, and fighting out of a military beast, and surviving in the wilderness, and now it's like, baby goat. Okay, alright. Using blankets from the guard packs, I made a bed for Meva beside the fireplace, and a second for myself in front of the door. That night, as I lay in my bed watching the light of the fire dance across the tangled straw of the ceiling, I thought about Meva, about what Meva had done to protect me from the guards and their needles. Finally, I asked her the question I had not found the courage to ask before. Do you want your dream of marriage to come true for us? Are you asking me to marry you, Zerk? I thought for a moment I was a nobody, a lowly miner, and she was not only of royal blood, but a beautiful and true. No, I couldn't think of that. I squeezed my eyes shut. Meva, will you marry me? I will. The boat. Okay, it's a boat. It's not a goat. It's a boat. They clearly survive goatification. They don't get goated. Alright, we left the safe house the next day. Although Quace and we could stay 2 days, neither of us wanted to risk turning into a baby goat. What? Okay. Avoiding the trails, we made our way down to the river Quace had shown us on the map. We reached the river and turned, following it downstream, hoping to find a boat. After several hours, we did find a boat tethered to a tree and the 2 oars inside. It seemed like the boat was there just for us, but I suppose that is what anyone who steals says. I helped Meva into the boat and climbed in myself. Cutting the rope, I rowed out into the main current of the stream. After that, the current did the work for us. The significance of Grint. Our boat drifted downstream while we slept under a blanket. When awakened by the chirp of cricks, I would poke my head up, look around, and adjust the oars to keep us in the center of the current. Meva slept on my chest, mumbling in her dreams. Her eyes darted back and forth under her eyelids. The only word I could understand was, "I am giant." And then she would sigh and be silent again. A quadricrane cocked its head back, poised to spear a passing fill frog or fill fish. The water stirred a few feet in front of him, and the stirring swirled away from him, then closer, meandering this way and that before the hunter's beak blurred into the water and ended the dance. It caught neither a fill frog or a fill fish. Instead, it gulped down a younger quadricrane. Oh. The sun came up in a shadow. Sun came up, and a shadow came over us, cast from a ridge. We were near a small town, probably Grint. Grint was an agricultural town. Farmers brought their wives there to sell. It would be a good place for us to go and find food and satisfy our grumbling bellies. Oh, wares! I read that as wise. Wares! There to sell. Once past the bridge, I pulled our boat up onto the shore and hid it in a clump of trees. We made sure the boat was hidden, just in case those who pursued us along the river. We climbed up the banks, then over the boulders. A bustling farmer's market unfurled before us. We tried to blend in through those seemingly unnecessary, for no one paid any attention to us. Meva found an acrofruit vendor and gave him a few coins for 2 portions of fruit. The people of Grint could be heard whistling a tune that was their anthem. I tried to whistle it too, but not to deceive them into thinking I was one of them. No outsider could ever whistle a town's theme in quite the same way as the locals, but trying to whistle the tune meant that you were friendly, that you deferred to the local cultures and traditions out of respect. Attempting to whistle a local tune might gain a shopkeeper's favor, and find his prices may suddenly come down for you, or the local law enforcement may choose not to stop you or harass you. I gripped Meva's hand and pulled it close to my chest. I loved the way she tucked her head against my shoulder. Her feet now walked in a rhythm that matched my own, so she could remain close to me. My cloak clearly covered her too. My cloak nearly covered her to people who might look at us from the side. Meva kept looking back over my shoulder, so finally I asked her what she was looking at. Her eyes darted to me, then back up over my shoulder. "Is that a temple up there?" I turned and saw a rectangular building that twisted up into the air. It had little windows cut into its sides and a ring of gold spikes adorning the top like a crown. She continued, "They perform marriages up there." I did not know much about these temples. Are you saying that you want to... Are you saying that you want to? Mean now? She smiled. My heart skipped a beat. We hiked up to the temple and came before the priest. I had a distrust of priests, simply because priests were picked in a secret ceremony behind doors, and nobody knew the criteria for which they were selected. This always bothered me, and has been done for thousands of years. He addressed me first. "Zerk, I do not know you, so forgive me if I ask you questions. I ought to know if you were members of the same congregation." "I am not a member of your congregation," I said, hoping to tweak him just a little. He ignored my comment and put a hand on my shoulder. "You are known as Zerk." "I am." He gestured to Meva. "You are known as Meva?" "I am." He turned back to me and asked, "Zerk, will you forsake all others?" "I will." "Will you keep Meva the focus of your desire?" "I will." "Will you be a loving father to your children?" "I will." Finally, "Will you die for her?" "Without hesitation," I said. He took his hands off my shoulder and put our hands together. This was a gesture that my role was to be performed regardless of her oath. Meva, will you forsake all others? I will. Will you remind Zerk of the complexities of life? I will. Will you only bear the children of Zerk and no other? I will. Finally, will you submit to him? Will you defer to him in conflict? Without hesitations, he said. He declared us married. The color began to drain out of me and into her through the right hand. Her color did the same, moving into my right hand and then up my arm as my own color needed. When the colors had been exchanged, we kissed. Wait. Oh, with hesitation. Oh! Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I was thinking it's like, man, this feels like it was written in a very not modern time. But I'm going like, I guess it's like the tradition where they're from. Okay, yes, will you submit to him? Will you defer to him in conflict? With hesitation, she said. You know what? That's beautiful. The without hesitation and then with hesitation. I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you, Joe, for catching that. The priest escorted us to a narrow door at the back of the temple, used only by newlyweds such as ourselves. The path beyond was rocky and twisting. It was often so difficult that we had to help each other to continue. Finally, it ended in a small garden with a spring of cool, running water. Leaving Grint. We left Grint, the food in our packs replenished and our hearts united. Meva recognized an area of the map called the Valley of the Dronk. Her grandfather had taken there many years before, when she was a child. It was a vague memory to her, but because of its connection to her grandfather, it was special. I knew she wished to go there, and so I took a detour to see the valley as a part of our honeymoon. Valley of Dronk. I told Mira about my experience of becoming the mountain, and showed her the purple fuzzball, but I did not let her touch it. The extent of its power was unclear. What if she touched it and was transformed into a grain of sand? How could I ever find her again? Meva told me that it was her grandfather who started the search for the legendary heart of the mountain many years before. He had convinced the mining company to dig for it, promising them they would own it once the soul was safely transferred into a younger, more virile body. I started thinking of a device that could control the heart of the mountain's soul-transferring powers. But even though I was a capable builder, I did not know how to make the device I conceived. Meva knew of a tribe of rock beings called Dronk, who lived in secret. They were the guardians of the mountains. Meva's grandfather had signed a treaty with them, which allowed the blank mining crews to dig the richest veins, while avoiding the Dronk's sacred chambers. Her grandfather had honored every word of the treaty. It was the key to the company being able to mine there, where so many others had failed. Previous companies had tried to dig further and deeper without the approval of the Dronk. Then, the mining would inevitably break into a sacred Dronk chamber. The Dronk would demand operations to stop, fighting would break out, and the Dronk always won. They were, after all, made of rock. Meva said the Dronk were capable of building complex mechanical structures from a magic rock. They had a mysterious and powerful device that allowed them to create nearly anything. This could be just what we needed for my house to control the purple fuzzball. Alright. We are almost 3/4 of the way through this. The biggest of lore dumps. Alright. Meva led us to a narrow canyon where walls stood adorned with strange carvings I could not decipher. Every angle was perfect and the walls were smooth as glass. I realized that the canyon had not been formed naturally. The canyon walls had been carved by the Dronk. We came to a circle of polished white stones inlaid into the floor. Meva said that in order for us to see the Dronk, the stones must be stepped on in a precise pattern. Once this was done, the Dronk would come. Her grandfather had studied the stones and eventually discovered the pattern. The pattern had been taught to her when she was a child, as a sort of dance. She thought that she was learning a kata or a family ritual. Not until much later did she realize it was the key to unlocking the Dronk's stones. She completed the dance, and the final stone she stepped on sank to the ground 2 inches. I could hear the clinking of underground mechanisms as stone slid against stone. Spires of minerals covered in crystals spread from the ground in neat rows. Black, tangled orchids of petrified trees, Black, tangled orchards of petrified trees rose against the canyon walls. All was silent. We stood waiting for 3 hours. At one point, Meva pointed behind me, and I spun around to see 3 stone beings. They had a simple form, like a children's drawing. Their heads were huge rectangles with coarse holes cut clear through the head, allowing the light of the sky to shine through. Their bodies were rectangular stone. Their legs and arms were slabs. 2 Dronk pulled a third from a white stone monolith. They pulled out the body, setting it aside. Then they pulled out an arm and hung it on the body. The process continued until the 3rd Dronk was completed. "Do you see that, Zerk? They're giving birth," Meva whispered to me. The newly formed Dronk was the same size as the other 2, but he walked awkwardly, staggering as they guided his first steps. One of the Dronks used his finger to carve a symbol into the new Dronk's forehead. "You will hunt for us," he said. "Your name shall be Hunt." When this was done, the Dronk turned to us. He welcomed Meva. He said he knew her from long ago. Then when she had come to the valley with her grandfather, Meva bowed. The Dronk said he'd seen her as a baby, and he never forgot a bloodline. His name was Grell. He was the one who had used the creation table and gave names. Meva asked him if he could build a device for us to contain the heart of the mountain, and motioned for me to show him. Grell looked long and hard at the purple fuzzball when I held it up to him. Then he said, "We have no use for this, because we cannot die. But this has been hunted for by mortals for as long as time has spun. Everyone who found it before you either killed or vanished." "Does this mean I will die also? Or was I meant to have it?" I asked. "Neither, or both," Grell replied. He motioned for us to follow him to the monolith, which he called the Skeeve table. Grell stirred the shiny white surface of the monolith like it was a liquid. It didn't move at all like the solid rock. After a moment, he drew out a device that had an open hatch and 2 hinged arms on either side. Taking the purple fuzzball from me, he placed it in the top compartment and snapped the lid shut. Drell handed the device back to me. "These mechanical arms pull the soul from one thing and hold it temporarily in the machine or transfer it into another object or body." Drell put the corner of the stone head on Meve's hand as if to kiss it. "Visit us again, Meva. Now go in peace." Leaving Dronk. We left the valley of the Dronk and continued our trek to the cottage Quace had shown us on the map. It was well off the main path, surrounded by thick woods. Oh my god, we're going back to baby goat territory. It's a much more inviting place to stay than the safe house, and with no threat of turning into baby goats. The roof was tiled with bark shingles, and the walls were split logs. The front door was flanked by small windows. Inside the cottage was dry and warm. There's a rock chair and a rug made of Angora elephant. A rug made of Angora elephant, a framed bed, and a painting over the fireplace. After dumping our packs on the bed, we went outside and explored the area around the cabin. Not far off was the grove of wild minkmere trees. Their branches hung low from the weight of the fruit on them. I plucked one and we shared it, the sugary juice running down our chins. To the south, a stream trickled down from nearby mountain peaks, running off from the thawing snows many miles above us. I've looked back on our time in that cabin and longed to return to those memories. It was the best time of our life. We were free from worry and concern, and our love continued to deepen. I can only think of one moment when it all went stink bad. The baby gardens. Eva went outside in the cool of the morning and paced off a large square field, then a second field in the shape of a giant circle. The square field was for boys, and the circle was for girls. But by our custom, it was mandatory to build both fields, and to decide which field would house the seed after only after both were complete. Some couples demanded only males, some demanded only females, some demanded this exact same amount of each sex. Some decided to plant all the offspring in one season. Others chose not to plant any seed at all. We had long walks around the two fields, Meva gleaning every weed from the area so that it looked pristine. All rocks and pebbles moved to the outskirts of the field, making an accidental sweeping rock path around them. She set up the border markers, a stick, and then drew a string taut between them. We gathered small sticks and placed them along the string to mark the border. She sang a song about the family inside the border, and how one day they would meet the family outside the border. The land was rich for reproduction. Okay, so they're plant people. It came time to plant. I exhaled, and the small sack lowered from the bottom of my torso. Where I am from, the sacks have 3 black... Oh my god. We're getting into the deed, I guess. The sacks have 3 black marks on them. 2 of them look like circles for the eyes, and unmarked looks like a smile. Inside the sack contains any number of seeds, from 1 to 99. We are forbidden from checking the count of the seeds in the sack, so the day of planting is always a surprise. The next part of the planting ritual is up to Meva. She pokes her finger into the right eye mark of the sack, in the line that looks like a mouth, and says, "Open up, yar!" Then the number of seeds we are to plant that day come out of the mouth. In our case, 1 seed came out and landed in Meva's open hand. Next, she was to choose which field would receive the seed. Would it be the square field or the circular field? But before she could make her choice, something terrible happened. The seed withered in her hand and blew apart in a puff of smoke. Shock came over Meva's face as she considered the seed obliteration in her hand. She looked at me to see how I would respond. I was not sure how to act. The first thing that came to mind was what her people would call her from now on, obliterator. I pushed that word out of my mind, obliterator. No, not Meva. She would not be known as an obliterator. It is true that other obliterators did not want to be known by that name, often claimed that they had never tried to have children in the first place. But that was hard to do for those who were more publicly built their square and circle fields in thickly populated areas. Beppy better watch out. Yeah, it's inappropriate. This is very adult stuff. Alright, let's see. Where did we leave off? But that was hard to do for couples who had built their square and circle fields in thickly populated areas. Oh, because of obliterate. Yes! I had forgotten about that. Beppy just goes puff. Like the seed, off to the wind, obliterated, gone. Alright, back to the story. The weird story. Okay, where'd I leave off? Sometimes the husband took the blame, claiming that no seed was ever produced from the sack in the first place. He would be known as seedless. That is a name so shameful that we would shout the curse at our enemies on the other side of the battlefield. Seedless, seedless, seedless. Meva wept in my arms and said I could leave her and find another female. I told her that I would rather be married to even an obliterator than any non-Meva female. She had the desperate idea to use the soul transfer device to put her into the body of a viable female, but the idea was wrought with difficulties. The first would be to find a female who wanted to be pulled from her body into Meva's. Why would a female want to be removed from her own body? Perhaps if she had an incurable disease, she was going to die anyway, she would want to switch bodies with Meva. Then Meva could bring us a baby. We could figure out something else to do with her incurable disease. Perhaps I could build her a mechanical body in which to house her soul in case of an emergency. Meva was willing to do this, but I did not like the idea of using the soul transfer machine lightly. It was for emergencies, and it needed to be much more experimentation before we knew the limits of its power. I was not sure how trustworthy the housing device we got from the rock people would be. What would happen if the device failed? What would happen if the device killed the purple fuzzball in the middle of the soul transfer? I assumed the body would be obliterated, and the soul would be cast into the air. There we go, guys. Here's your warning for everybody. You know, when I say obliterate and you get obliterated, I also collect your soul. Your soul is cast into the air. A homeless ghost in search of a body. No, experimenting on Meva would not do. She was already so sad enough by not being able to bring us children. We did not turn the two fields under, but we did not keep nature from climbing the ground for the forest again. Trees grew in those fields, male trees where the square was, and female trees where the circle field used to be. Rocks tumbled back over the ground. Male rocks where the square field used to be, and female rocks where the circle used to be. The weeds came. Hi, Minty! Hello, hello! You're joining us as we go through weird lore dump for this game that we're playing. And thank you for the anniversary wishes. Metal, can you give Nevermint a shout out, please? He's such a good bean. Anyone who's not following Minty, absolutely be sure that you're following him. He's always an awesome bean and a fantastic streamer. And also, whether you have VR or not, he's also fun to hang out with in VR chat. So Friday nights typically when I'm done my stream, I go and I hang out with him on VR chat. Little old you. Yeah, little old you. Minty is an awesome bean. Also, Minty, how's your dog? How's the puppermint? Alright. Meva and I never brought up what happened in those two fields again. Artism. 5 years passed, and we had thoroughly researched the soul transfer device. I took most of the notes, and Meva formally put everything in her secret journal. We concluded our experiments, having grown weary of research, and put the soul transfer device in storage under the bed. Ah, yes, you have a soul transfer device everyone on your planet is willing to kill for, and you put it safely under the bed. She's doing well, currently licking off her dinner plate. Good doggo. Happy doggo. With the diversion of research over, I noticed Meva spent long hours staring out the window. She was looking at the baby gardens, now barely visible under a thick patch of weeds. One day, Meva went outside to draw shapes in the soil using sticks. She told me it was a new art theory she was working on called draw-shapeism. Then she pushed sticks into the ground and called it stickism. Not to be outdone, I piled rocks up in front of our cabin and called it Rockism. Soon our stick artworks began to fill the yard, leaving little room for my rock expressions. With no place left on our property to properly display my art, I decided to pioneer a new undiscovered genre of fine art. I plucked pine cones from the surrounding trees and rehung them from the branches. I called it pine cones. Meva thought I was mocking her art. I asked her why she didn't think I was just mocking rockism. I asked her why she didn't think I was just oh my god, let me get sentence. English is hard. Okay. Meva thought I was mocking her art. I asked her why she didn't think I was just mocking rockism. She claimed intuition. She said that the pineconism was redundant and derivative, which infuriated me. Out of spite, I tied the pine cones onto the exact place from where I had plucked them, inciting more criticism from Meva. She said I couldn't tell if the pine cones were growing naturally from the tree, or if I had plucked it and tried to put them back onto the branch. I feigned offense and yelled, "You not have an eye for art? You would recognize pineconism when you saw it?" She declared a new form of pineconism, where the artist did not pluck the pine cone from the branch and retie it before declaring it a work of art. I thought it was obviously silly and said as much. She yelled, "You are just jealous of my superior form of expression, Zerk. You know that I've discovered an authentic movement known as pineconism. You are not even making art," Meva yelled. "What you are doing is called nature, not art." She glared at me. This is what all stupid people said about great art when it was first discovered. They did not have the mind to understand such things. I'm shocked you are one of those people. I pointed to the ground. Fine, I just discovered groundism. It is when the ground is just the ground. In fact, the whole world is already my work of art because it is all covered with the ground. I will sign my name to the world. I snapped a stick from the ground and signed my name to the ground. Meva's face turned red with anger. "You just broke off one of my stickiest artworks." "Well, there weren't any other sticks I could use to sign my name," I shouted back. "Someone picked all and stuck them into the ground." That night, Meva moved out of her bed and set up a pile of clothes to sleep on in the corner. I saw the stupidity of our fight and said so, but she would not talk to me and would not return to our bed. Oh my god. This is the weirdest thing I think I have ever written in my life, or read in my life. I'm also failing at words despite having so much experience with them of late. Okay, let's see. What do we got next? That night I did not sleep. When we slept together, I rested my hand on her hip. The empty space she left in the bed was haunting. I kept looking over at Meva in the corner. Could not believe I had acted so stupid to her. I realized that she was really trying to be an artist. She needed to create. She hadn't started stickism to spite me. She was expressing herself. I was the fraud. I was the one acting in spite. That lonely bed was a warning that if I continued to disrespect my treasured wife, I may just end up alone forever. The next morning I saw her stirring, so I went and laid down beside her. I apologized to her and admitted my spite. She held up her hand to quiet me. I cursed my love of art. I put it before you. I forgive you, but I don't want to pursue stickism or my fraudulent form of pineconism anymore. She took my hand and placed it on her hip. She said, "I have a new form of art. I call it Zerkism, and I will only ever be a Zerkist. And I'm a Mevaist. I will only be obsessed with Mevaism forever." Alright, research. I threw myself into the study of the soul transfer machine. Meva documented everything in a secret journal. Undisclosed location. Trust me, don't even bother trying. When I first turned the machine on, we could feel it drawing power from the surrounding environment. If we used it too often, the surrounding trees would droop from exhaustion, the grass would lose its color. Though we didn't feel anything, it was my suspicion that the soul transfer machine could even be drawing its power from Meva and I. With the use of some handmade baskets and some string, I was able to trap small spurs on which to experiment. We always had a few in cages along the back of the wall of our cabin, and took them outside when weather permitted. The first specimen I caught was an adult spurred that looked healthy. We called him Specimen A. I put him in one of the transfer machines. I put him in one of the transfer machine's claws, and had the other claw touching a rock. This was to emulate my first experience in the blank mines when I touched the purple fuzzball and went into the mountain. I pushed the button to power the device, and it began to hum. Then, with a flip of a switch, Specimen A went suddenly limp, and the soul transfer machine cut its own power. Meva pushed her fingers through Specimen A's feathers, feeling for a pulse, but there was none to be found. We inspected the rock, picked it up, and held it to my face. It was cooler than the room temperature, but there were no visible signs that anything was different. "If you are in there, little Spurred, hold on tight. We will bring you back to your body," I said. The claw of the machine was once again attached to the rock. The claw on the Specimen A remained, and we turned the machine on. With the flip of the switch, the Spurred sprang back into life. Its head snapped up and its feet clenched. We kept Specimen A in a cage just long enough to make sure there was no lasting side effects. Later that spring, we set Specimen A loose, and he built a nest in a tree that grew from what used to be our circular field. It was not clear exactly what happened in the event of the soul transfer. We were not sure if the soul got extracted from the body, and that caused the heart to stop, or if the soul transfer stopped the body's heart, which released the soul to be transferred. So does it kill you to collect your soul, or does collecting your soul kill you? I feel like these are important questions. Alright, we have the next section of wall. Meva and I spent many weeks trying to come up with an experiment that would give us clear results to our hypothesis. Many other experiments were conducted, most of them mundane. I will not bore you with the details, but I will bore you with the results. We found most living bodies could go without a soul for some amount of time. It may only be for a few seconds, but none of the bodies could survive without a soul for longer than 2 minutes under normal room conditions. We tried a soul transfer in the winter on a hibernating hamster, and its body survived after 4 minutes without a soul. But most did not survive that long of an ordeal. There were problems with the bodies we were using in that the stopped heart removed the ability to deliver oxygen to the subject's brain. So some soul transfers were successful, but the brain damage of the body was often so great that the spirit was incapable of flight, had no memory, or died sometime later. We hated being the cause of these spirits' deaths, so we tried to return their souls to their bodies within 2 minutes. The disintegration of Specimen X. Oh, that sounds concerning. Specimen X was lost when we unhooked the claw from the spirit's body midway through a transfer. The body went transparent, then vanished completely. It's unclear what happened to the spirit's soul, but we could hear it chirping in the air around us even after the body was disposed. This was strange. Since the spirit's soul was not attached to the body's vocal cords, and yet both Meva and I could hear it. Specimen X's chirping went more and more distant before it went silent, never to be heard again. It was unclear to us if the body was disintegrated by choice of the purple fuzzball, or because of the disconnect of the soul transfer machine. This brings us to Specimen Y. The disintegration of Specimen Y. During the soul transfer of Specimen Y, I prodded the purple fuzzball with a stick and everything in the room came to a stop. The lamp in the room remained lit, but it went dim. For a moment I experienced what Specimen Y was feeling, and at the same time I could see his body splitting from his soul. I felt my heart beating in my chest. Then I saw my body from Specimen Y's point of view. I felt terrified. My body looked like a giant, poking the purple fuzzball with a stick and standing across from my little spirit's body. The room went bright white, and I was slammed back into my Zerk body. Meva and I were flung across the room. Our bodies pressed against the wall by an unseen force. When the room went back to normal, Specimen Y's body was gone. As was the rock his soul was supposed to be cast into. The stick was still in my hand, but it made chirping sounds. The stick chirped for several days, but faded as days went on until the voice died entirely. Man, they're doing some weird, fucked up shit with these soul transfers. I mean, I guess it's good that they're experimenting to understand, like, what happens before they use it on themselves, but... Damn, this is, this feels messed up. This feels like crimes against God and nature. Okay, the visit. We were eating breakfast when the cabin was shaken. It stopped, an intermittent hum came from the backyard. We rushed out to find a spaceship covered in stars floating just above the ground. It was half the size of our cabin. We walked around it. I put my head on the hull. It was cool to the touch, and the ship moved under the slightest pressure of my hand like a balloon. I wonder if it has a door, I said. Just then, as if by coincidence, the edge of the door appeared. Then it disappeared. Meva saw it too. We tried to find the edge of the door with our fingers. But the hull remained smooth aside from two large gashes to the left of where the door was. I wonder if someone is inside. Again, the edge of the door appeared, opening only slightly, but enough to allow sound to escape from the ship's interior. Wah! A cry came from inside. Not the cry of something big, but something small. That sounded like a child, Meva gasped. We have to get in. As if moved by her demand, the hatch opened wide, a small set of stairs extending to the ground. The cry came louder now that the hatch was open. We couldn't see inside because white lights flooded from inside. Meva was halfway up the stairs before I grabbed her arm. Meva, we don't know if it's safe. Wah! Came the baby cry again. There is a fire in Meva's eyes. Someone needs us. We'll find out if it's safe later. She pulled me up into the bright light. I stumbled on the steps, and then we were inside. Meva tripped over something beyond the door, and she gasped. We stood there for a moment, waiting for our eyes to adjust to the light. From inside the craft, it was hard to make out any sounds beyond the hum of the engines and the crying. Finally, through squinted eyes, we saw that what Meva had tripped on. Two beings lay on the floor, together, arm in arm. I would have thought they were asleep, but their faces were gaunt, their skin already stretching around the shape of their skulls, eyeballs dried and sunken. Meva covered her face. I knew what had killed them. I had seen it before in the mines. When a miner was being pushed by something particularly terrible, he would have his rations taken away. These were the effects of starvation. Or punished for something particularly terrible. Would have their rations taken away. Starvation. Alright. Again, the crying. This time, Meva stepped out over the corpses and went in search of the source. What if it is a trap? The cry could not be a universal distress signal to attract victims. Maybe this is not a ship. Maybe it is a living entity and it hopes to kill and eat us. You have a great imagination, Zerk. Meva called out over her shoulder. I followed. We passed a small room that caught my attention. Wires traced their way around the ceiling, walls, and floor. They came together at a power grid covered in little crystals inserted into gaps. The crystals were a dull greenish color. In a small chamber, Meva found a baby in a padded pool, chained to a console. The room was filled with the stench of feces. When Meva lifted the child from her bed, it was easy to see that the smell was coming from her overflowing diaper. Even its pod was smeared with it. Zerk, quickly, give me your robe, Meva said. Meva removed the dirty wrapping and tossed it back into the pool. Taking my robe, she gently wrapped the child. Though sullied, the child seemed comforted by its newfound freedom from the soggy diaper. Her cries sputtered to a stop. Meva rocked the girl in her arms, singing softly. The baby watched her with wide eyes. Little things spoke. Pee. She burped a green bubble. I popped the bubble, and a small crystal fell from it, landing on the floor. It looked just like the crystals I had seen inserted into the grid, except this one was bright green. The baby nuzzled into... Oh, that's a clue, because we got a crystal from a baby earlier. Alright. The baby nuzzled her head into Meva's arms, her eyes closing in exhaustion. Meva looked around the room. She hasn't been changed, She hasn't been changed for days, Meva observed. There's spelling errors in this, and every now and again, they throw me off. She hasn't been changed her 4 days. It didn't make sense that the two beings on the stairs starved to death while the child seemed to be so well fed. I turned the crystal over in my hand, trying to understand it. Then it came to me. They starved themselves to feed the child, I said. The crystals come from her. They power the ship. She was their only chance for survival. After they died, the ship ran out of power and drifted into our backyard. Meva smiled. She found us, Zerk. We could not. She found us. You did see where the ship landed, right? I shook my head. On the female baby garden. She will be our child. I love having children that are power facilities. Alright. I saw the look of the renewed hope in Meva's eyes. Though I doubted any cosmic will was bent on bringing us this female child, I did not want to hurt Meva's feelings. Whatever the cause of the coincidence, it was a good thing for Meva's heart to have a child in her arms, a child that needed her. We took P off the ship and brought her into the house. That night, she slept between us, and we could hear her breathing. I put my hand on Meva's hips, and she put her hand on the baby's back. Just before we drifted into a deep and peaceful sleep, I heard Meva say, "You're safe now, P. I love you." A giggle, a burp, pop, a crystal clatters to the floor. The signal. There were several mornings that Meva dreamt the same thing. She saw P being born in the center of a planet hundreds of thousands of years ago. The dream was strange enough, but its recurrence was troubling. Another oddity was P's diet. It was non-existent. Again and again, Meva tried to get P to eat something, but she would just laugh until she burped up a green bubble. In the corner of the cabin lay a burlap sack half full of green crystals. "She is not eating, Zerk, and doesn't even seem hungry," Meva said. It was quite the puzzle. We had both seen her waste inside the ship, so she had to eat something, or at least be capable of it. Meva held P close, and the little green baby smiled, wrinkled her nose, then burped up another huge green bubble formed into the air. I popped it, and it revealed a slightly larger green crystal, about the size of an egg. I picked up the crystal and examined it. It reminded me of something we had once found in the mine. We had once found a crystal similar in shape and size, but it was blue. After discovering it, Joxon Rexon was noticeably excited. He ripped it from my hands and examined it in the light with one of our headlamps. He said it was P-tonium. He said something about selling it and buying a new house. He slipped it in his pocket, and we never saw it again. Alright, so the opening of this game is the planet. I can't remember the planet's name. They needed a material called P-tonium. And P-tonium comes from the planet that we're on currently, where our intrepid heroes that we're controlling crash landed. So does this mean this child produces P-tonium, the substance that apparently the planet we're from requires? I'm thinking that's the thing. Could these little green crystals be similar? That evening, we were sitting on the front porch enjoying the cool mountain air. Meva was teasing P with a little straw doll she'd made, and P was giggling as usual. I examined the crystal. There was a low hum, not from the crystal, but from beyond the trees, from the valley road. What I saw was like a boot to the stomach. 3 military hoverpods stopped on the road. Scores of soldiers poured out from them and disappeared into the trees between us. "How did they find us?" Meva cried. I looked down at the green crystal in my hand. P was emitting a source of power that would show up on the radar of every military vehicle across the country. How could we be so stupid? They're not coming from us. They're coming for her. We ran back into the cabin. I dug out the sock with the abominant's finger. Even if I managed to kill some of the soldiers, I would never stop them all. Escape was our only option. "Quick, Meva, to the ship!" We ran out the back door, just as the soldiers reached the front of the cabin. "Open the hatch," I yelled at the ship, and it obeyed. Meva scrambled in it with P. Then I remembered something. The soul transfer device was still in the cabin. I nodded to send Meva into the ship as I ran back to the cabin. "Close hatch," I yelled over my shoulder, and the ship obeyed. Inside the cabin, the front door groaned as its rusty hinges as the soldiers pounded the other side. I saw shadows pass the side windows. They're going to get it. They're going around the back. I found onto my belly in front of the bed and pulled the device out. I was nearly back outside when the front door gave, bursting inwards. Darts bit into the door frame around me. I slammed the back door closed on them. Soldiers came around the sides of the cabin. "Open!" I screamed at the ship as the darts pinged off the ship's door frame. I dove inside before the stairs even had time to extend. I shouted for the hatch to close, and not a moment too soon, boom, a concussion bomb made the ship reel. Meva was thrown against the wall, her arm shielding P. I held up the device for her to see, and she nodded. Another concussion hit the ship, throwing me to the floor. "They're shelling us," she yelled. We ran into the control room together, but none of the controls made any sense. Meva, in despair, "How do we take off?" Suddenly, I remembered the green crystals in my pocket. It was bright green, like the sun cast through a new spring leaf. Power! The ship needed power. I raced down the hall and into the room with the grid. I tore out a dull green crystal and threw it aside. I inserted the new bright green crystal in its place. The voice from over said P-tonium accepted, 12% charge. Instantly, the ship turned on an unseen pivot and shot upwards, pressing us into the floor. The whole room rumbled and shook as we gained speed. From where on the floor, I could see Meva, but I could not get up to be with her. She was pinned to the wall, clutching little P in her hands, straining against the presser. She tried to hide the fear on her face. All went silent. We had pierced the atmosphere. The resistance was gone, and the vacuum of space enveloped us. Meva and I scrambled into the control room. The knobs, levers, buttons were a complete cipher. "Does anything look familiar to you?" said Meva. "I'm a miner, Meva, not an astronaut." "Don't worry, sir," Meva said. "We're a family now. I would rather be here with you and P than back in my father's palace. Though hurling through space, I can say that in this moment, I am complete." I laughed and my heart grew stronger. I said, "You are Armikrog. That is what I shall call you from now on." Meva's face contorted. "That's a horrible sounding word. What does it mean?" A wrinkled man of the Wanati Desert tribe was sold into slavery and worked in our mining crew. Whenever his hammer fell on walls that were too hard to be chipped, he would shout "Armikrog" at the rock. "That's you, the immovable rock." Meva shook her face and laughed. "Never call me that ugly name." "Okay," I said, then mumbled under my breath, "Armikrog." I heard that. Okay, this is it. The last piece of the story. Desperation. No water for 4 days. Could be 5. Everything is empty. There is no food on this craft. P does not seem to mind. She remains healthy, but seems sad at the sight of Meva and I starving. No more giggling. No more crystals. For a while, we could make her laugh, and she would provide the P-tonium to power the ship. We are too weak. The ship is moving, but we don't know where it is going. If I take the last crystal out of the grid, the ship will stop, and so will the life support system. The color in the last crystal is fading. We could be dead soon. I have tried in vain to learn the controls, too alien and too strange. I declared my love for Meva to whoever finds this. More desperation. I have decided to do the only thing that might save us. I will use the soul transfer device to put myself into the ship. Then I might be able to figure out how to operate the ship's foreign controls. At first, Meva begged me not to do it. She reminded me of the risks of the strange things that had happened to some of those birds, but eventually, even she saw the necessity of it. I would either die from starvation lying on the floor of the ship, or would die trying to save us. Meva kissed me, and relented. A crazy plan. We clamped one of the soul transfer device arms to the control panel, and the other onto my arm. Meva reminded me that she would give me 1 minute. She wasn't going to risk any more time. I nodded, and she pushed the button. The purple fuzzball beating inside the device cast light around the room, and I went into the ship. The first sensation I felt was the lack of feelings. The aching hunger was gone. The pangs of starvation that racked my body had slipped away in an instant. It was a relief. But then I remembered the short time I had and turned my mind to other things. I could sense our place in space. Nearby planets and stars took shape in my mind, and their names came to me. Although I'd never seen them before, I realized the ship must have some navigational computer or log. At this thought, more information poured into me. I could see the ship's entire history in a moment, but my mind grasped another image. P's crib. P's crib was being pulled aboard by a desperate-looking crew during the heat of a battle. The ship's door was sealed before taking off. The crib was chained to the wall. P was force-fed cans of beans to increase output of P-tonium. She didn't laugh or smile. The crew's planet needed the P-tonium to survive, and there were other planets that wanted P-tonium too. They were killing for it, and were willing to kill for it. As far as the ship computer identified, P is the last of her kind. Meva's voice echoed inside me. She was telling me to hurry. She was going to transfer me back. In a panic, I pulled my mind from the computer, though there were so many more questions I knew it could answer. But I had to get to the control panel. Its levers and knobs were instantly familiar to me. I dimmed the bright lights that made it difficult to sleep. I discovered a water generator that had been switched off. I turned it on and the ship's water storage began to fill. But something was wrong. Not all the controls were working. I could only make a minor adjustment to our speed. I could not reverse our course. I could not change our trajectory. I dove deeper into the controls, tracing their connections until I found the problem. There were two dents in the hull where the ship had been hit by missiles while escaping. One had torn the metal open and damaged the ship's controls. I used the navigational computer to quickly chart a course. We were headed for a nearby planet. I calculated how long it would take to reach it. At that moment, I woke up to the sensation of liquid pouring on my face. Meva had pulled me out. She was smiling, holding a container of cool water. I drank it down in big gulps, but it did little to satiate the gnawing hunger in my stomach, or the growing fear in my mind. I told her the bad news. We were about to crash land, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. Life after the crash. A crash landing is difficult to describe with accuracy. When in the middle of it, I did not think of the tumbling would end. It was more like an assault than an event in my mind. Surrounded by the noise and violence, papers, paneling, and even my own clothing blurred past my face. I remember the weird details in times of crisis that came for no apparent reason. I saw a metal tool tumble by. I looked at my own hand and my own anatomy in slow motion. I did not know why these things I remember. When it was finally over, we climbed from the wreckage. With few injuries. Meva's arm was broken. I was bleeding from a gash in my forehead. P's crib had landed on top of her, but instead of harming her, kept objects from crushing her. At the time, I thought it probably saved her life. Behind us was a jagged line scratched into the planet's surface that documented the trajectory of our landing. Pieces of our ship ripped from the hull by trees and rocks scattered to either side of that line. The air was thicker than our home planet, but gravity was comparable, and a yellow haze protected us from direct sunlight. Meva knew enough of the healing arts to talk me through resetting her arm, a difficult ordeal. She and P took shelter under low-hanging branches while I went in search of anything that could be salvaged from the wreckage. Over the course of that day, I dragged chunks of the ship's carcass back to Meva, where she, using her one good arm, assembled a makeshift shelter. P seemed oblivious to the peril of our situation. I put bushes on my head and danced around for her, which consistently made her giggle. P's happiness was a comfort to Meva. The first night, we huddled together in our shelter and listened to strange animal noises that put a chill in our bones. This planet sounded all the more threatening, and I knew it would be a matter of time before a beast broke into our temporary housing. Most days, I worked on the water generator. The few stores of water we had were nearly exhausted, and a survey of the area revealed no water, though there were plants growing on the hillside that I assumed used water to survive. The water generator wouldn't power on, and I considered leaving Meva and P to go on more exhaustive search for water. Another howl, deep, and the brooding came from the forest as if to threaten me, as if I ventured too far from camp. Our love for P motivated us to keep trying, and it kept us from falling into despair. I fused 3 wires on the water generator, and it came on for a few seconds, then made a popping sound and seized up in a cloud of smoke. I feared I might have damaged it beyond repair, so in desperation, I used the soul transfer device to put myself into the infernal machine. Once inside, I could clearly see what must be done. I also discovered that the water generator was actually a matter generator. It could pull water from anywhere because it changed the array of any molecule into water. With a little work, the water generator became a matter generator. I was able to make simple objects with it. I started with bricks, then made hammers, screws, bolts, and basic levers. I repaired the power grid. Using the green engine room as a power generator, we fed P-tonium into the grid and offered more enough power for anything we needed. Previous visitors. During the day, there were less animals roaming around. Meva and I explored the surrounding... So I'm assuming these are the people that eventually built Armikrog. P is the baby that I found earlier in the game. That also explains why this fortress got attacked initially, is people were looking for the P-tonium that P could generate. Okay, back to the actual story, though. During the day, there were less animals roaming around. Meva and I explored the surrounding area to discover we landed on the far edge of a long valley. On the opposite end of the valley, we found a rock with testimonies of previous visitors scratched into its great surface. We do not know who wrote them, but wrote a commentary on each of them to acknowledge that they were part of our history. Boram. He was a great scientist who flew to this planet hoping to perform experiments using an artifact of time bending. The date next to Boram's name suggests that he landed on the planet some 500 in the future, and the space maps he drew are beyond the accuracy and scope of contemporary maps. Boram discovered the planet he named 26229 and was considered by the future scientific establishment as having similar parameters to his home planet. Boram applied his time-bending theories to space travel and blasted off to live on 26229. His last words are here, carved into stone before leaving. Let us get the show on the road. Armikrog. He was a great military commander. Armikrog's body was so badly injured in various wars that it was mostly replaced by machine parts, including 15-foot robotic legs. Damn. One day, his suit was so badly injured in battle... Wait, so... I'm sorry, is this literally a dreadnought from 40k? It's literally a dreadnought from Warhammer. One day, his suit was so badly injured in battle that he used a furnace-tending suit as a replacement. He could no longer fight in wars, but he could still tend to the furnace, so he remained thankful. He had a strange pet, a flat-faced, tentacle-maned Cephia kraken. Xylith. An adventurous blind girl named Xylith wore the 7th ring of Eureka while hiking, and it transported her to a far-away land. She lost her old guide animal and went hunting for a new guide animal, known as a half-mongrel. A half-mongrel will not tolerate being stared at, so she never got mad at blind Xylith. She scratched the soft fur and felt his face expressions to learn his moods. They became inseparable friends. Xylith never returned home, but always had company to keep her warm thanks to their half-mongrel. Herverkrog. God, they're just getting harder with these names. There was once a scientist who spent so much time in his laboratory alone that he went mad. His name was Herverkrog, the inventor of the procrastinator ray. He hated... I like how it made, like, a bunch of these weird references earlier that made no sense, and now it's explaining all this stuff. Like, at the end. It's kind of neat. Interesting story structure. Anyways, back to reading. Procrastinator Ray. He hated this planet but found he could not leave. This made him angry, because he thought that he was so smart, and he was smart, that he would be able to find a way off the planet. He began to work on a portal to another dimension. This technology is fictional at best, but he claimed to get the idea from his deceased wife who visited him in a dream while in a feverish delirium. Armikrog built his interdimensional gate, which looked like 4 logs bound together by rope. We found the gate, but also found a book of Armikrog's mad theories next to his skeleton, which lay at the base of the gate. For reasons of my own, I believe Armikrog has something to do with the disappearance of Boram. Blackton claimed to discover cave walls covered in ancient finger paintings. His devices of measurement dated the paint used on the wall to be at least 5,000 years old. These could be the oldest inhabitants of the planet. The most fascinating thing about the cave paintings was that they depicted 99 generations who came before them. The first of that line could be the first being ever to live. The long lineage could also imply that this lineage went on forever into the past, and that only 99 beings could fit on the wall, before the most recent generation ran out of space. One other being is scribbled on the edge of the wall. He has a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, like most beings we know, but he is covered in warm flesh. His hair on his side and wears unique hat and shoes. A translation of the inscription under the cave painting sounds something like human being from Earth. But none of us know what that means. Okay, well, now we know that this takes place in our universe. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Lugness. Lugness is an honorable and noble being who lived just over 1,200 years ago. He invented the RG Bab bomb, which altered the light of any level area within a stone's throw. Lugness discovered a distant star that radiated green P-tonium energy. One day, the distant planet mysteriously stopped emitting P-tonium energy. This is a speculation, but could this have something to do with P? Nickel Knot. Walter Nickel Knot was the first astronaut from the planet Ixen to find this world some 272 years ago. His ship did not run on N-tonium, but on magic. What? Okay. You know what? We've had transforming into baby goats already in the story. I'm not going to debate magic. That was back when magic was real. He came to this planet entirely by accident when he crossed the then-known hyperspace lane. Nickel Knot was jettisoned across the universe sideways before ejecting from his craft just before crashing into the planet's surface. This concludes my commentary on the history written on the stone. Building statues. I used the generator to build statues of my own likeness, and I gave them simple mechanized skeletons so they could help me work. They are capable of working even if I left the room. They were linked to my nerve nets, so if I transferred my soul into one, I could move between them. With my crew of mechanical workers, we built 3 great towers. The one lesser tower that would be modeled after Meva's likeness, a great surrounding wall that was erected to keep any hostile animals out. Meva and I wrote out laws on the walls, over doorposts and in journals. Even the statues were capable of repeating the laws. We wanted P to be raised in a family that respected each other. First the self, second each other first, and the self second. We assumed that P would long outlive us. It is our desire that these laws be the foundation of our little society. The name. This fortress has been built to protect our family and our ways. These words have been written so that you may know us better. If you are a friend, then take shelter, for to you we freely give this place. But be warned, however, if you seek to bring harm to this family, I have already bent my will against you. Though I am a kind and gentle friend, I am an even fiercer, terrifying enemy. If your designs are for harm, I will unleash Meva's wrath on you. The 3 engines will ignite, and the Harbinger will be awakened. Enemies, know the name of this fortress and fear it. Armikrog. Holy crap, we're done. We have finished reading the thing. The giant wall of text. Why, Joe? Why? Why have you done this? Why have you done... Alright. I'm gonna end stream. I think is what's gonna happen. It's gonna end stream anyways because it has been because I started at 4, it is now 9 o'clock. I've been going for 5 hours. Can read it like the Micro Machines man. Oh my god. All right, we're gonna end stream here. Also, I'm gonna refund you for those points. That's just mean. Oh. All right, let's find out who we can go and raid. Thank you for the biddies. Listen, we have been reading the story for the past almost 3 hours. It's long. It is very long. But we'll be back to Armikrog next Tuesday. Okay, who do we have to raid? Oh my god, Aurora is playing Lunars. That is pretty fun. So I think we're gonna go raid Aurora. Alright. Let's see, raid is kicking off. And we're just gonna do, you know how this goes. Just the normal, the simple. Good vibes. Let's go show Aurora some love. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow for... I don't know what I'm going to try to do tomorrow. We might be trying to go back to Metro. We will see. We will see. Anyways, but I will see you guys tomorrow. Alright, it's time to kick off this raid. Bye-bye.